So good morning po. And please don't forget to sign your attendance. And um, we will begin shortly at 8:45. So kindly settle down po para makapag-start din po tayo on time. Thank you. Alright, so good morning po and welcome sa ating activity for today. So this is the Ease of Doing Business package rollout. Specifically, this is the rollout of the regulatory reform for LGUs, R4LGUs, or more commonly known yung sa ating repeal of policies. And we also have today ang Electronic Business Permits and Licensing System or ang ating eBPLS. So, let us be reminded lang po ng ating certain reminders. Please rename yourself po into this format. So, office or LGU underscore ang inyong pangalan. And if you are attending in a group, please indicate po GB for group viewing sa inyong pangalan. So, example is GB underscore DILGB Marapa underscore Ana Cruz. So, depende po yan sa inyong office. And of course, do not forget na mag-time in and sa atin pong link, http://bit.ly/EODB day 3 underscore attendance. And nakalagay din naman po sa ating chat box itong ating link for the attendance. So don't forget po. So for some netiquettes, kagaya po ng ating napanood kanina, please test your technology beforehand. Dress appropriately, lalo na po kapag tayo ay naka-open camera. Be punctual. Minimize distractions. So, punta po tayo sa isang lugar na makakapag-concentrate tayo. And of course, give your full attention dito sa ating activity for today. So, when you are to speak, look at the camera and speak clearly. Also, mute yourself po if you aren't talking para naman po hindi rin tayo makadistract ng ibang nagsasalita. And of course, a professional setting is a good etiquette. So without further ado, we will begin na po. So let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, our Father, we come to you in our need to ask your protection against the 2019 and coronavirus that has claimed lives and has affected many. We pray for your grace for the people tasked with studying the nature and cause of this virus and its disease, and of stemming the tide of its transmission. Guide the hands and minds of medical experts that they may minister to the sick with competence and compassion, and of those governments and private agencies that must find cure and solution to this epidemic. We pray for those afflicted. May they be restored to health soon. Grant us the grace to work for the good of all and to help those in need. Grant this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen. And let us stand for the Philippine National Anthem.
Kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Magiliw, telas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyak ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tulakaw
Alright, please be seated po. And of course, to acknowledge ang ating pong participants here with us today, may I call on Miss Sydney Pamela Behasa.
Ayan, so muli po magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Ma'am Ray, audio check po.
Yes po, loud and clear.
Ayan, so magandang umaga po sa ating lahat and sa ating mga participants. And to do the acknowledgement, try lang po natin na gamitin yung ating platform, yung ating Zoom. So sa baba po ng ating Zoom platform, kung kayo po ay gumagamit ng inyong PC, ng inyong pong desktop, makikita nyo po sa ilalim yung reactions button. Ayan, so meron po tayong iba-ibang emoticons dito sa ilalim. So we have the clap, the thumbs up, the heart, the laughing emoji, the wow emoji, and the tada. So for this acknowledgement po, ang gagawin lang natin, pag tinawag yung inyong probinsya, ay pipindutin nyo kung ano yung nararamdaman nyo ngayong araw. Okay po ba? So ano po bang ibig sabihin itong mga emojis na to sa baba, itong mga reactions na to sa baba? So ito po ang ibig sabihin nito. So kapag thumbs up po yung pinindot nyo, ibig sabihin good. So okay lang po kayo. And then kapag clap naman, yeah, so you are grateful. Pag heart naman po, ayan, inspired. So sino ba ang source of inspiration nyo? Kapag laughing emoji naman, happy or pwede ring overjoyed. Kapag wow naman, amused or wondering, pwede ring confused. At kapag yung tada, yung parang confetti po, ibig sabihin ay bongacious or parang combination na, mixed feelings. Yan, pwedeng sabihin natin overwhelming in some sort, pero yan, bongacious. Kalahat-lahat na. Yun nga lang po, hindi available itong ating mga reaction sa PC, sa cellphone kapag mobile po yung ginagamit natin, mobile device po. So kapag ganun po, pwede rin naman na live action yung gagawin natin. So tingnan nyo po itong mga nakapresent po na pictures kapag good, ayan, so thumbs up, kapag kayo grateful, clap. Yan, kung kayo po inspired, finger heart. At kung sa tingin nyo lahat-lahat na all combined, ayan, pwede kayong mag-hooray. Okay po ba? So ngayon po, i-stop share ko po para makita naman natin yung ating mga participants. So, pwede po ba na mag-open camera po ang ating mga participants? Ayan, may mga naka-group viewing pala po tayo. Ayan, magandang umaga po. So, ready na po ba? Pag tinawag po yung inyong province, alam niyo na po kung anong gagawin po, ano? So, i-react nyo lang po kung ano yung nararamdaman nyo ngayong araw. Sige po, kung wala pong camera, pwede naman po na gamitin lang natin yung reaction button sa ilalim. So, simulan po natin sa Kanlurang, Mindoro. Punta muna po tayo sa probinsya sa isla ng Mindoro. Simulan natin i-acknowledge ang mga participants from the province of Occidental Mindoro. So, kamusta po ang mga taga-Oxy? Ayan, so good daw from Lubang. Ayan, grateful si Sir from Lubang. Ayan, si Ma'am Claire, magandang umaga. Good, grateful din si Ma'am Claire. Ayan, so magandang umaga po, Sir Mike. Ayan. So magandang umaga po sa mga participants natin from Occidental Mindoro. Ngayon naman po, dako tayo sa kapitbahay ng Occidental Mindoro, ang Silangang Mindoro, ang aking pong home province. So kamusta po ang ating mga kababayan dyan sa Oriental Mindoro? React po tayo. Ayan, so good ang BPLO. Yan, nagpalit. Yung BPLO pinamalayan. From good, naging grateful. To good ulit. Nagbabago yung feelings ng taga-BPLO pinamalayan. Ayan, so magandang umaga po sa mga participants natin from Oriental Mindoro. Dako naman po tayo sa Geodetic Center, ang puso ng Pilipinas, ang province of Marinduque. Kamusta po ang ating mga LGU participants and officials from Marinduque? Yan. Sabi ni Ma'am Sally ay good. Alright, so magandang umaga po. So ngayon naman po, punta tayo sa mga participants ng Marble Capital of the Philippines from the beautiful province of Romblon. Yan, so heart pala po yung BP Ologasan. Inspired kanina, hindi natin nakita sa Marinduque. Yan. Mugpog, good din. Yan. So from Look, si Ma'am Aleng ay grateful. So magandang umaga po. Yan, from Odrongan, good daw. Alright. So magandang umaga po sa mga participants natin from the province of Romblon. Ngayon naman po, dadako tayo sa last frontier of the country, ang province of Palawan. Kamusta po ang mga participants natin from the province of Palawan? Yan, so may kasama po tayong from the Office of the Vice Governor. Magandang umaga po. Grateful daw. Ayan, board member. Magandang araw po. Board member Modesto, inspired daw si sir. Good morning, sir. And welcome po sa ating activity. And of course, punta naman tayo sa tinatawag na City of the Living God or the City in the Forest, ang Puerto Princesa City. Kamusta po ang mga kasamahan natin dyan from Puerto Princesa? Grateful ba? Inspired? O good daw si Ma'am Rose. Yeah, so magandang umaga po. And of course, ang mga kasamahan natin sa regional office. Kamusta po tayo dito sa regional office? Ayan, grateful. Ayan, hooray daw si RD Ray. Good morning, sir. Ayan. So tingnan naman po natin sabay-sabay. Si Miss Ray, tada daw, bonggacious. Si Dennis ay grateful din. Sabay-sabay naman, ayan, sabi ni Miss April, on board din daw ang LGU Quezon Palawan. So magandang umaga po. Sabay-sabay naman po tayo sa kalahatan. Ano po yung nararamdaman natin ngayon? In 3, 2, 1. Yan. Click, react po tayo. Yay! Ayan, so magandang umaga po sa lahat. And over to you, Ma'am Rayan.
Hello! Isa pong magandang umaga. So, dito po sa Quezon City, actually, maganda na po ang sikat ng araw. So, talagang umaayon po sa atin, sa ating activity for today, itong ating panahon. Na sana po ay maging maganda ang connection natin, hindi lang namin dito, kundi kayo na rin po dyan sa inyong mga respective LGUs. So, without further ado, let us hear a message from the Assistant Regional Director of DILG Mimaropa, ARD Ray S. Maranan, testify. Sir?
Good morning, Gayan.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat na narito on board sa ating pagtitipon at pag-uusap about the ease of doing business. Okay. Our regional director, Wilhelm Suico, is part of the panel of reactors in the activity for today at the Philippine Local Government Forum. Ito ay series of fora na kinoconduct ng DILG to the Local Government Academy or the LGA because of the celebration of the Local Government Month. At itong araw na to, there is this particular topic or subject na ini-engage ang ating mga local government unit officials and functionaries. And in this particular day, subject ay panel of reactor ang ating regional director, and much as he wants to be welcoming you, he opted to direct me para to do instead. Okay. So, magandang umaga po uli sa ating lahat. And special mention sa ating kababayan from the Office of the Vice Governor, si Board Member Modesto Rodriguez. Sir, magandang umaga po, Bukal, Board Member. Okay. And the rest of our partners sa ating mga piling local government units and na sinelect ng ating DILG Regional Office because really kayo ay nakita, naunawaan na we need you sa ating subject na EODB rollout na to. This is the last day of the 4-day rollout involving 3 packages. Last Monday, we have our rollout for our select regional, provincial, and HUC focal and point persons, so that firstly, sila ay makaunawa muna, sila unang makaunawa ng ating gagawin sa ating mga local government units, yung sharings natin sa kanila. What better way na i-start yung 4-day activity na yung ating mga point person sa DILG in the field offices ang siya muna makaunawa so that they could properly guide our LGUs, share to our LGUs yung importance ng ating gagawing mga rollouts pa. And yes, the other day and yesterday, ito yung pangalawang package para sa ating mga pili na local government unit officials and functionaries. At ang subject is about the streamlining ng building permits and certificate of occupancy, as well as the integration of the barangay clearances sa ating local government unit permitting process ng mga municipalities and cities. So 2 days ito, comprehensive ang pag-uusap sa bagay na ito. And then for today ay ito namang third package which would deal on the area of repeals, pag-repeal ng ating mga polisiya as well as the electronic BPLS promotion. So we are promoting this eBPLS as well as we want you to know the technicalities and the things about the repeal of the policies as per Republic Act 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business Act. Kailangan po natin itong maunawaan. Let me tell you about yung backgrounder o yung bakit talagang kailangan natin gawin ang bagay na ito. At this particular moment, October 22, Thursday, tayo po ay nasa third phase ng ating laban sa pandemic. Third phase in the sense na tapos na po tayo ng first and second. First phase ay yung ating unang mga buwan, March to June. Yan ang unang panahon na talagang maigting ang ating pakipaglaban sa pandemic. At may mga certain areas tayong binigyan ng impetus ng pagpapahalaga. Una yung saving lives ng ating labanan nitong COVID-19. Second one was from July to September at ito ay patungkol na sa unti-unting economic recovery as well as mabawasan sa health side, sa health sector, mabawasan ang fatality rate. Yun ang focus ng ating interventions ng phase 2. Unti-unti starting our economic recovery as well as sa health side ay yung mabawasan ang ating fatality rate. We are now at the third phase ng ating laban. And ito ay from the month of October up to March 2021. Maraming efforts ang gobyerno dyan to include Bayanihan Act 2, Republic Act 11494. At ang ating binibigyan ng importansya at pahalaga sa ating third phase, i-manage natin yung health risk na ito with the theme na saving lives and mitigating impacts as one towards economic and social recovery. At yun ang isa sa tema na mahalaga doon sa ating pangatlong phase na to. At sa health side is how to manage the health risk, and sa economic side natin is learning our people, our community members must learn to live with the virus. Nandito na tayo sa stage na we have to learn to live with the virus in as much na wala pa tayong vaccine, wala pa tayong talagang yung gamot tungkol dito. And that is why very important at patulong na tayo sa mga LGUs na nandito and everyone here na still ang compliance natin sa minimum health standards ay dapat nandoon. So, up to March 2021, yan ang binibigyan natin ng focus na ito. And hopefully, after the first quarter, nandiyan na yung vaccine, nandiyan na yung tamang paggamot natin sa ating COVID-19. to include yung mass vaccination. But as of now, we have to learn to live with the virus. Bakit importante ang sinasabi natin ito? It's because the threats are there. The COVID-19 ay nandiyan lamang. Paano natin matutulungan ang ating ekonomiya to survive and to slowly recover? Kaya malaki ang tulong ng bawat isang LGU dito. Sinasabi sa public administration, we already learned that ang taxes ang life and blood of the government. At saan ang gagaling ang taxes para gumalaw, gumulong, magsilbi ang gobyerno? It is from the taxes na na-generate natin, from the paying businesses, from the paying public. And how could we possibly pay the right amount of taxes if we only have the right opportunities to pay because we are earning? And earning, it's because meron tayong business na gumagalaw. And yan ang dapat bigyan diin ng ating mga local government units, how to support our businesses. At isa sa malaking tulong on that ay yung pag-regulate ng reforms patungkol dito, as well as pagbabago ng mga polisiyas, paano natin matutulungan ang ating businesses for them to grow, for them firstly na makapag-start uli, and for them to grow. As well as paano electronically natin matutulungan sila na makapag-enlist ng kanilang mga negosyo, pay appropriate taxes electronically, makuha ang permits electronically. Because sa minimum health standards, very important ang less or hopefully no face-to-face contact. That is why ang ating tulong sa kanila is yung para sa kanila in terms of mga documents, ma-provide natin with the less natin na interaction with them. And that is why the subscribing to the policy as prescribed in the National Action Plan Phase 3 na living with the virus with less prescribing to the minimum standards, less face-to-face contacts, minimum intervention with our persons. Yun ang ating mga dapat isaalang-alang. And that is why this very day, ang ating purpose, isa sa mga purposes is ma-encourage ang ating mga LGUs. We have target LGUs from the province of Palawan, Romblon and Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, and Marinduque for them to be able to somehow know and understand they have to repeal their particular policies. They have to understand why. They have to know bakit at dapat na palang mag-repeal sila ng mga policies nila because hindi na consistent with the existing law ng ating AODB, RA 1102, as well as yung mga existing situations and policies we have now sa paglaban natin sa pandemic. As well as, pwede ba na yung ating mga target LGUs para sa eBPLS ay ating ma-encourage sila, ma-enjoy natin sila, knowing they really have to do this particular thing as their way of giving it to their community members para maprotektahan sila, hindi contactless natin ang mga gawain and regulations sa ating mga LGUs. And that is why we will be hearing from our good friends from the Bureau of Local Government Development, from the Central Office. We have our friends there. Kasama natin sila dito today. We have our friends from the Anti-Red Tape Authority na mag-share sa atin ng mga magagandang impormasyon about the policies we have to yung in place sa ating mga respective LGU. And we have also friends from the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Paano ba yung eBPLS? Paano ba tayo enroll sa mga ganito? Paano ba tayo come up with the appropriate tie-ups para sa pagkuha ng mga magtutulong sa atin in our intent of going into this contactless or less face-to-face intervention because we are going into automation. So at this point, we would like to welcome you at amin una ang pagpapasalamat na you are on board. Marami tayo ngayong araw na to and hopefully you would understand na kabahagi ang DILG at katulong natin ang iba't ibang ahensya para paano natin mapapalakas ang ating mga local government units pa in terms of yung ating giving to our community members, giving to our people yung appropriate na mga measures to prescribe to the minimum health standards as well as being part of our intent para sa slow and yung continuous natin na economic recovery para sa ating bayanihan to heal. Okay? So with this, we say good morning to everyone at thank you so much for being with us. Welcome po sa inyo. Thank you.
Thank you so much din po, ARD, for that wonderful message. And I hope po yung matutunan po ng ating participants for today ay talagang magamit din po nila sa kanilang respective LGUs. So to give us an overview kung ano po mangyayari for today, may I call on the regional focal person for the EODB of the DILG Mimaropa, Ms. Kimberly Katakis.
Thank you, Rayan. Hello, everyone. Loud and clear po ba ako?
Yes, Ma'am Kim.
Thank you, Sid. So I will be showing you po kung ano-ano po ang mangyayari sa whole day po natin dito sa ating rollout ng regulatory reform for LGUs and eBPLS. Okay, so first po, let's start light muna kasi maya-maya pagdating natin sa kalagitnaan, baka medyo ma-stress na tayo. So let us get to know each other po muna. Next, please. Ayan. I have here some pictures of some animals. So I would like you po to pick an animal for yan, para sa inyo. Ano po yung most na nag-a-appeal po sa inyo? You can comment down po in our chat box kung ano po ang napupusuan ninyong animal dito. Okay, we have doe, we have horse, fox, and dog. Okay, we have fox. Madami ang fox. Okay. Fox and dog and horse. Wala pong frog. Monkey po. We have a monkey, we have doe, frog, we have porcupine, horse, a giraffe, and a dog or pug. We have a hippopotamus, a fox, and a monkey. So, nakikita ko po dito mostly dog. Okay, may pumili ng giraffe. May deer, horse, fox, dog, fox, 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 dog. Okay, BPLO 3. Okay, merong pumili ng hippo from Romblon, si Sir Brian. Fox and horse. Okay, wala na po bang iba? Okay, si Sir Mike, horse daw. Okay, no more? So let's see po kung ano po ang ibig sabihin ng mga animals na ito. Okay, so ito po yung types of participants in a conference or a workshop. So if you chose no monkey, the monkey knows everything. So ito po, siya yung know-it-all ba sa isang training at isang conference. And then, dun sa mga pupili ng dough, sila daw yung shy, yung mga nasa isang tabi lang at nakaupo lang doon. And then, wala akong nakitang pumili ng frog. So ito daw po yung salita ng salita, talks and talks. And then the porcupine is always resting. So siguro ito yung nakakatulog parate sa isang conference. And then the horse accepts everything. Sir Mike, parang hindi ako naniniwala dito. The giraffe is the Superman. And eto, maraming pumili dito. The dog or the bulldog fights everything. So siya yung parating kumokontra sa sinasabi ng speaker or ng co-participants niya. And then we also have the hippopotamus or the hippo. Wala lang, deadpan, no reaction. And the fox, ayan, ask questions. So ito po yung mga meaning po ng mga pinili po ninyong animal. So sa inyo na po kung seseryosohin niyo po ito. So ito is pampalait lang naman po ng ating, magpara-polite ang start ng ating day ngayon. So thank you po for participating. Now, let's jump to the flow of the activity. Ayan. So, una po, magsa-start po tayo sa presentation po ng salient features ng ease of doing business and efficient government service delivery. So, ito po actually, ito pong ating R4LGUs and eBPLS activity is third and last activity na po natin ngayon. So, early this week, nag-start po kami. 2 days po, nagkaroon kami ng BPCO and Integration of Barangay Clearance naman na activity. For the overview, concepts and methods of the LGR JMC 2019-01 and the discussion on its annexes and forms, yan po ipepresent po sa atin ng mga kasama natin from the BLGD po. Nakasama po natin dito. Ngayon, nandyan po si Ma'am Louie, si Miss Lian, and si Sir Renz. Hello po sa inyo. Thank you po. And then, the discussion on the regulatory reform for LGUs or R4LGUs information system na i-discuss naman po ng kasama po natin dito. Nandito po ang si Mr. Xavier po, dito lead administrator po natin dito sa DILG Mimaropa. And also, we will have an overview of the Philippine Business Registration Information System or the PIDRIS po na i-discuss naman po ng ating mga resource speakers from the Anti-Red Tape Authority later po. And then, last but not the least, syempre po, kasama rin po natin ang ating kaibigan from the DICT LC3 na magdi-discuss po ng eBPLS and also who will give us an overview of the eBPLS na bagong-bago pa po. So, that's it po. Maikli lang po yan, but I'm sure marami po tayong mapupulot na mga bagong information po dito sa ating mga topics for today. So, with that po, I will turn you over po ulit sa ating... okay. Meron pa pala nito. Sorry. So, we have the expectation setting po. For this po, I would like everybody po to click the view options po at the top of your screen. Nakikita niyo po ba ito? View options. Miss Sid. Pwede pong mapakita sa kanila yung view options sa taas ng screen.
Hindi, ma'am. Kasi naka-interface na.
So, meron po dyan, please click the view options. Meron pong maliit na triangle dyan na or arrow na point down. So, pakiclick po yung view options. Magkakaroon po dyan ng drop-down menu. And then, please select annotate after po nung request remote control. Please select annotate. And then, you can choose po text. Ayan. So, dun sa text po, pwede po kayo mag-start ng magsulat dito. So we have a few questions po dito. Number 1 is, what do I expect or hope to gain and learn from this activity? And the next, what do I hope to contribute to the success of the activity? And the last one, what do I expect from the resource persons or co-participants and the training secretariat? So, ayan. But please po, you can write here po. So, again, view options, choose annotate, and then choose text. Okay, may mga nakakita na po ba kung paano gamitin? View options, annotate. Okay, I think si Misid pala yun. Okay, si Misid pala yun. Okay. So, view options po sa taas, and then annotate, and then text. Sino po yun? Ang dami na nag-annotate. Okay, ano na lang po, text.
Ayan, so Ma'am Kim, pwede rin siguro nang gamitin ng ating mga participants yung chat box. You can just
Okay,
type in the comments your
Yes.
expectation and we'll just paste it on our board. Maraming
Okay,
salamat
thank you,
po.
Sid. Sige po. Doon sa mga nahihirapan po na makapag-annotate po dito, sige po, you can choose the chat box na lang po for our 3 questions. So the first question is, what do I expect or hope to gain and learn from this activity? The second one, what do I hope to contribute to the success of the activity? And then last, what do I expect from the resource persons, co-participants, and the training secretariat? Okay, hindi ko lang nakita masyado. Sorry po. May nakapagsulat na po dito sa first column natin. Mayroon po ditong additional knowledge. Good morning. Additional knowledge. Ayan. And then, sige po. We'll give you a few minutes po. For those po na hindi po makapag-annotate, you can write your answers in the chat box. Okay, dun po sa mga naka-mobile, pwede pong sa chat box na lang po. Okay, so additional knowledge, learn something new. Okay, din sa last, responsive to request. Ayan po. So we are requesting you to respond po sa aming request na to write down your expectations po sa expectation setting po natin. Okay, wala pa po ako nakikita sa sa chat box. Okay. Yung information and knowledge that is from, okay, nag-group viewing. Group viewing, LGU Lubang. Okay, medyo mabagal po ang pagdating ng ating mga comments. Okay. Expect from Mr. Speaker, responsive and lively. We will try po hanggang mamaya na maging lively po. From LGU Santa Cruz, Marinduque. Okay, for the first question from BPLO Torrijos, new ideas and information. Okay, meron dito, medyo natabunan lang. For the expectation, in aid of legislation and hindi ko mabasa yung natatabunan na yung information. In aid of legislation and ano po kaya ito?
Ma'am Kim?
Yes, tama ba? In aid of legislation in formulating local business package policies
Yes, ma'am.
of
Tama
the
po.
province of Palawan. Okay, parang wala pong nagsasagot dito sa ating second question. What do I hope to contribute? Ayaw niyo po ba mag-contribute? What do I hope to contribute to the success of the activity? May nagdo-drawing po. Please, select po text. We are also live pala po on Facebook, so baka po meron tayong mga inputs from our viewers in Facebook.
YouTube. We are live in YouTube po.
In YouTube. Okay, GB, LGU, Quezon. Sent already my answer. Sige po, thank you. So for our viewers po on YouTube, okay, may nagsasagot. Sige po, we need an answer po dito. What do I hope to contribute to the success of the activity? Okay, from Torrijos, meron po, for the first question, third question, have clear and fresh ideas/knowledge. Ayan, thank you. Merong nagsagot po dun sa second natin. Second question, what do I hope to contribute? Sabi po niya, be attentive. Okay, so let's go over po sa mga sagot po ninyo. So for the first question, what do I expect or hope to gain and learn from this activity? Ang mga answers po, additional knowledge, learn something new. For sure po ako, at least po, pag ano nyo po dito, marami po talaga kayong matututunang bago. In aid of legislation, na gano'n na naman, new information and knowledge, responsive and lively, new ideas and information. Okay, naisama yung from YT viewer, Felix Ed Savaria. Parang kasama po natin si Sir Felix kahapon. Okay, meron ulit dito. Natabunan din ulit. My expectation is to gain... Ay, nawala. Okay. Okay, for the second question, what do I hope to contribute to the success of the activity? Be attentive, provide input during the activity. Ayan po, so please, we hope to apply here in the LGU what we gain from this conference. Yes po, yan po talaga ang ating objective po dito, na hindi lang po basta training or orientation, but syempre po, kailangan po natin i-put into action yung ating mga matututunan po dito sa ating activity. And then share the knowledge. My expectation is to gain and learn this activity is to know the steps in regulatory reforms which can be as useful as best practice in the locality. O yan. Maganda po yan, sir. And then for the last one, last question, what do I expect from the resource persons, co-participants in the training secretariat? And sabi po, responsive to requests. Para pala dito yon, nakala ko dun sa second kanina. And then responsive and lively, have clear and fresh, I think para ito dito sa sa first row, yung have clear and fresh ideas and knowledge. So, ayun po. Meron pa po sa chat box? Okay, meron dito, be oriented of the objectives of the activity. Ayan, one is from Palapan City. One, sagot nila sa first question, to learn. Second, to be participative. Thank you po. And we expect that din po from the other participants to be participative as well. And third, lively sessions. Ayan. We will try our best po na maging lively po talaga ang session natin up to the very last topic. So I think that is all po. Meron pa po bang bago? Okay, meron pa dito. From Sir Tommy Nacasio Estacio. First is be oriented on the objectives of the activity. Second, be enlightened to the rule of the legislative body in order to achieve the objective of the activity. And I think there are more po from our viewers in YouTube. Okay, so this is from, actually halos ito from Sir Felix Echeverria Jr. Okay, I am expecting from my co-participants to share their experiences in their respective area of concern to be used as guide for other cities and municipalities. So ayan, maganda po yan. Ito po yung isa sa mga ina-advocate po ng DILG. It's the knowledge sharing po, sharing of experiences. And then another one, I can participate with the e-games and e-question from the facilitators. Ayan, sige po. Kasama naman po kahit yung mga nasa Facebook, kaya lang po medyo minsan po talagang nauuna po yung mga nasa Zoom. Medyo delayed po kasi yung sa YouTube. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you po sa support, Sir Felix Echeverria. Okay, so I think that is all. Meron pa po bang bago? Okay, no more. So that is it. So thank you very much po for participating, and we shall expect po na matupad po lahat ng nilagay po natin dito sa expectation setting. So with this po, I will turn you over to our first speaker. So she is also one of the regional focal person for EODB, and she will be presenting the salient features of the EODB EGSD law. So may I present to you Ms. Rayan May P. Maranan.
Yan, so good morning po. So sa mga kasama po namin ng previous 2 days, so it's me you're going to be seeing again. And sa mga bagong participants po natin, Once again po, I am Ray and May P. Maranan. So for our first topic, the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act of 2018, we would present to you ano po ba yung salient features nito. So RA number 11032. So according po kay President Rodrigo Duterte, and I quote, reforms to ensure competitiveness and promote ease of doing business will be mandatory. Reacting to these needs, the restrictions on the economy will be needed to make more investments to come and to develop labor-intensive industries such as manufacturing, agriculture, and tourism shall be pursued. So, unquote po. And sa kanya po talaga nagmula itong ating reforms, no, sa ating ease of doing business. So this is one of his agenda po talaga. So ano nga po ba ang ating EODB EGSD law? But first, good news po, noong 2019, tayo ay rank 124 sa doing business nitong ating sa World Bank ranking. So for 2020, napakaganda po, we jumped places talaga. So from 124th, naging 95th. So it means na gumaganda po yung quality ng doing business dito sa Pilipinas. So hopefully with these activities na kinandak natin and sa learnings po ninyo ngayon, ay makatulong din po na mas ma-boost pa yung ating ease of doing business. So ito po ang ating Global Competitiveness Report Card. Ayun nga, tayo talaga ay pataas ng pataas ang ating rating. So ang ating nga pong RA 11032, it was enacted on May 28, 2018. So 2 years na po ang ating batas na ito. And nakikita naman po natin na since then ay meron na po tayong mga initiatives and sa mga naging success stories. So to know more about this law, let's see kung ano ba ang mga salient features ng EODB law. So coverage, of course, all government offices and agencies ang kasama dito, whether it be national government agencies, ang ating mga local government units, or yung mga GOCCs, ang mga government-owned and controlled corporations, as well as yung ating other government instrumentalities, whether located man po ito sa Pilipinas or abroad. So dito papasok yung re-engineering of systems and procedure. Part ng EODB law ang kailangang gawin ng mga government agencies and other government offices ang mag-undertake first ng cost compliance analysis, time and motion studies. So medyo highly technical po pero ang ibig sabihin lang po natin, titingnan po natin yung current processes natin and i-review po natin if it needs a re-engineering. Next, undergo evaluation and improvement of their transaction systems and procedure. Siyempre po, tayo po as government offices, nagkikater tayo sa general public. So, we want po na ma-improve ang transactions natin because dito rin papasok yung client satisfaction. Next, undergo regulatory impact assessment to the proposed regulation. So, titingnan lang po dito, ano po ba yung magiging effect ng mga current and proposed regulations. Initiate review of existing policies and operations. So kasama din po dito sa regulatory reforms na nire-review natin ano ba yung currently meron tayo or in place natin na systems and policies. And of course, commence na po yung re-engineering ng systems and procedures based doon sa assessment na nagawa ng inyong respective offices. Nabanggit nga po natin kanina na tayo ay nagki-cater sa general public. So kasama po dito, kailangan naka-outline sa ating Citizens Charter yung mga items po na naka-enumerate dito. So lahat po syempre ay kailangan mag-set up ng current and updated Citizens Charter. So ang nakapaloob po dito, una ay comprehensive and uniform checklist ng requirements para po sa each type ng application or request. So kailangan po every transaction ay may naka-detailed documentary requirements para aware po ang ating mga clientele kung ano yung mga kailangan nilang dalhin document at i-comply. Next, procedure to obtain a particular service. Siyempre po kailangan alam nila kung ano yung mga pagdadaan nila, ano yung mga steps para ma-avail po nila yung particular service. And sino po ang responsible for each step. Kasama din po dito, for example, magbabayad ako, alam ko na sa ganitong lugar ako pupunta kasi si ganitong personnel ang in charge. Kailangan din po aware ang ating citizens ng maximum time to conclude the process para may general idea po sila gaano katagal ba silang gugugol ng oras para doon sa kanilang transaction. Next ay of course, yun nga po, ang mga dokumentong kailangan po nilang i-present or i-comply. Siyempre po, kailangan din aware ang citizens ng amount na babayaran nila in doing the transaction. At in case po na magkaroon ng misunderstanding or non-compliance, kailangan din po aware sila kung ano yung procedure para makapag-file sila ng complaint. So lahat po itong items na to dapat po ay nasa Citizens Charter and we have to make sure na lagi pong updated yung ating Citizens Charter. Because this is part din po nga ng information sharing. So part po ng provision, bagong provision ng RA 11032, ang pag-adopt ng zero contact policy. So sinasabi po dito na lahat ng government agencies, kasama na po ang mga LGUs, ay mag-a-adopt ng zero contact policy. Pero syempre po, ang exception dito ay during the preliminary assessment ng request at kapag nag-evaluate na po ng sufficiency ng submitted requirements. Minsan po, may mga innovative din po tayong mga LGUs na even sa assessment, wala po talagang contact at all. So no government officer or employee shall have any contact in any manner unless strictly necessary with any requesting party concerning an application or request. So sinasabi din po dito na lalo na po once tapos na yung assessment, wala na pong magiging contact yung ating client doon sa kanilang office na pinag-a-applyan po ng request. Kasi syempre po, sa point of view ni customer or ni client, magka-count na naman po ito as another step sa kanilang ginawang proseso. Isa din po sa mga salient features ng ating EODB law ang pag-reduce ng processing time at ng signatories. So ang lagi po nating tatandaan, 3/7/20. 3 days ang gugugulin for simple transaction. 3 working days lang po kailangan ang mga simple transactions ay tapos na. 7 working days naman for complex transactions and 20 working days for highly technical application. So, pag simple po, sinasabi natin, ito po yung mga routinary, yung mga mabibilis lang pong i-accomplish. So, nasa may mid-level naman po yung ating complex. Meanwhile, yung highly technical application, ito po yung talagang nagre-require ng intensive review or ng assessment. So, ang maximum time prescribed po, itong ating 3/7/20, may be extended for the same number of days, pero po only one time. And dapat po naka-indicate din to sa inyong Citizens Charter. So kapag complex transactions, allowed po na hanggang 14 days siya transact as long as naka-indicate nga po sa ating Citizens Charter na you are going to extend din po yung transaction. Another provision is yung working days for application or request for license, clearance, permit, or authorization na nagre-require ng approval ng local sangguniang bayan, sangguniang panlungsod, or ng sangguniang panlalawigan ay pwede pong 45 days. And pwede po siyang extend pero only 20 days na lang po. So ang maximum po is 65 days. 65 working days. Para naman po sa pag-streamline ng procedures sa issuance ng local business licenses, clearances, permits, or authorization, andyan po yung use ng Unified Business Application Form. So, nakapaloob na po dito yung iba't ibang offices, requirements ng iba't ibang offices or agencies para po isa na lang yung na-accomplish at kino-comply ni applicant. Kasama din dito ang establishment ng Business One-Stop Shop or BOSS. So, aware naman na po tayo dito dahil po we usually conduct this. Sa iba po, this is seasonal. So, usually first quarter lang ng taon. Meanwhile, sa iba naman po na maraming transaction talaga, umaabot po year-round ang inyong boss. So part din po ng salient features, ang pag-automate. So mandated po ang cities and municipalities na mag-automate ng kanilang business permitting and licensing system or yung BPLS within 3 years. So sabi nga po natin, 2 years old na po itong EODB law. So on May 28, 2021, hopefully po lahat po ng ating cities and municipalities ay nakapag-automate na ng kanilang BPLS. Another point is yung barangay clearances and permits related to doing business shall be applied, issued, and collected at the city or municipality. So this is co-location with LGUs. So kahapon po sa mga participants nating nandito rin kahapon, we discussed yung integration of barangay clearance in the LGU permitting process. So kasama po dito na nasa backroom processes na. Since po magkakaroon na lang po ng coordination si barangay kay city or municipal LGU, hindi na po kailangang i-comply or hindi na po prerequisite ni applicant yung barangay clearance para maka-avail ng business or building permit. So at the local government level, yung ating city or municipal business process and licensing office, ay yun nga po, hindi na po i-require itong same documents already provided by an applicant or requesting party to the local government departments. Kasama din po sa mga streamlined procedures ang securing ng fire safety evaluation clearance at fire safety inspection certificate and yung certification of fire incidents for fire insurance. So sa mga nag-undergo po dito ng training ng ating BPCO, so yun nga po nakita nila na part na ng backroom processes ang pagkuha or pag-release ng FSEC and FSIC doon po sa building permit and certificate of occupancy na ating process. And doon naman sa certification of fire incident, so 20 working days po, so 7/7/20. Again po, doon sa streamlined procedure for security fire safety evaluation clearance, FSEC, FSIC, and certification of fire incident for fire insurance. Magko-collocate na rin po sa Business One-Stop Shop or BOSS. And dito po ay mag-enter sa agreement. So may MOA po allowing yung latter or yung ating city municipal LGU to be deputized as assessors and or collecting agents for the fire fees. Kailangan din po makapag-develop ng online or electronic mechanism sa mga applications na ito. At ito po, aware po yung mga kasamahan sa BFP. So for the information of everyone, the Bureau of Fire Protection shall not sell, offer, or recommend specific brands of fire extinguishers and other fire safety equipment to any applicant or requesting party or business entity. So kapag na-violate po nila to, pwede pong makulong ng 1 year to 6 years and penalty po ng not less than 500,000 pero hindi rin po hihigit ng 2 million pesos. So yan, may kasama po tayo sa ating ARTA po. So the anti-red tape unit naman po ng Civil Service Commission, so CSC, ay magme-maintain ng anti-red tape. Yes, magme-maintain po sila ng anti-red tape unit sa central and regional offices. At gagamitin po nila ang isang report card survey for purposive and integrated government-wide human resource systems and programs. At sila din po, ang anti-red tape unit in the Civil Service Commission, ang magre-receive, review, hear, and decide on complaints on erring government employees and officials and non-compliance. So any violation po nitong ating EODB law ay pwede pong maging liable ng from the following acts. So refusal to accept application or request with complete requirements being submitted by an applicant or requesting party without due cause. So ayaw niya lang po, hindi po pwede yun, pwede po silang maging liable under the law. Imposition of additional requirements other than those listed in the Citizens Charter. So yun nga po, part ng Citizens Charter natin, kailangan naka-enumerate doon yung babayaran po ng ating applicant. So dapat po kung ano yung nakalagay doon, yun lang din po yung kanyang babayaran. That is why kailangan po laging updated ang Citizens Charter to reflect kung magkano po ba talaga yung actual na babayaran nila. And another po na pwedeng maging liable under the EODB law ay ang failure to give the applicant or requesting party a written notice on the disapproval of an application or request. Kasi part po dito na kailangan, kung meron po silang hindi na-comply, ay magkaroon po ng written notice para po alam nila kung ano yung mga documentary requirements na kailangan pa nilang i-comply. Liable din po if magkaroon ng failure to render government services within the prescribed processing time on any application and or request without due cause. So yun nga po sa 3720 natin na provision, kapag hindi po nakapag-comply within those working periods, pwede pong maging liable, lalo na po kung without due cause. Failure to attend to applicants or requesting parties who are within the premises of the office or agency concerned prior to the end of official working hours and during lunch break. So halimbawa po si applicant dumating ng 4:59, kahit po mag-uuwian na, kailangan pong i-accommodate under the EODB law. So kung mag-extend man po, basta po kailangan ma-accommodate po si client. Failure or refusal to issue official receipts. So kahit naman po tayo, no, when we buy something, of course, gusto po natin may official receipt. It's also an evidentiary support na meron talaga po tayong binayaran. And fixing and or collusion sa mga fixers po. Kaya nga po, ayaw po natin ng fixers. Pwede po natin i-report ito and yung mga kasabwat po nila doon sa particular agency or office. Ito naman po yung mga penalties and liabilities under the EODB law. So kapag nagkaroon po ng first offense ang particular official or employee, pwede po siyang masuspend ng 6 months without pay. So this is just an administrative liability. Pero kapag nagkaroon po siya ng second offense, inulit pa po, naulit pa, pwede na po siyang ma-disqualify from public office at ma-forfeit din po yung kanyang retirement benefits at pwede rin po siyang makulong ng 1 to 6 years. Yung nabanggit nga po natin kanina, 1 to 6 years at pwede pa po siyang mag-fine ng not less than 500,000 pesos but not more than 2 million pesos. So this is already an administrative and criminal liability. At ito nga po, sinasabi natin, yung criminal liability, pwede po yung dahil nagkaroon ng bribery, extortion, or baka naman po yung violation ay talagang deliberate at may intent po talaga to solicit favor in cash or in time. So, yun lamang po for the salient features ng ating EODB law. Do we have questions po ba? Clarifications? Feel free po to type in the chat box or yung sa mga nasa YouTube po, feel free po na ilagay din po ang inyong questions. Wala po bang mga katanungan? Siguro po in the past 2 years ay talagang lagi nyo na pong naririnig itong about sa EODB law. So, marami na rin pong naging clarification. Ayan. So, may question po. How about if we have just passed our revenue code where our requirements are given? Do we need to amend this ASAP? Ayan. Kung up to date naman nga po, and actually, represent din po mamaya yung sa ating regulatory reforms or sa repeal of policies. Makikita din po dito ano po ba yung possible actions. So kung nag-comply naman na po with the provisions and kung yun nga po updated naman yung inyong revenue code, we will see din po mamaya if there is a need to amend or update pa po further. Other questions po? Ayan, so wala na po tayong further questions from the participants. Kami naman po ngayon ang merong katanungan para sa inyo. So just a simple recap lang din po nung ating discussion. So if yung mga viewers po natin sa YouTube, hindi po kasi nyo makikita yung poll questions. Pero I will read it aloud naman po. Pwede nyo pong i-type sa inyong mga comments ang answer po na nakikita nyong tama. So, Ma'am Sydney? Ayan. So, sa ating poll, just choose lang po yung letter of the correct answer. So, the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act was enacted on what year? Alright, so for 33% pa lang po ang nagbo-vote sa poll. Dun sa chat box. Ayan. Meron din po sa chat box.
Okay, 29 out of 59. 30 out of 59. 50%.
Ayan. So, marami na pong nakaboto, ano. So, majority po, ang sagot ay 2018. So, that is the correct answer po. And may isa po tayong nagsagot ng 2019. So, yun po. Once again, 2018 po na-enact ang EODB EGSD law. So, ito nga po ay signed, once again, nung May 28, 2018. So, may we have, yan po, the next question. All government agencies, including local government units, shall adopt a zero contact policy. So, is it yes or no? Yan, so nasa 50% na rin po sa poll ang nakaboto. And meron din naman pong sa chat box. So pwede na po natin end yung poll. Yan, so the correct answer po, of course, is yes. Lahat po tayo mandated na magkaroon ng zero contact policy. So even kami po sa DILG, we have to adopt this. So may isa po na nag-no. So once again po, zero contact policy po tayo except sa initial assessment or sa initial po na evaluation. So meron po tayong katanungan sa from YouTube, from Sir Felix Echevarria Jr. So those applying FSEC and FSIC from BFP applicants who submitted documentary requirements, pwede ba nilang questionin halimbawa ang pumirma ng plano ay sa Mindanao pero nag-apply siya sa Metro Manila? Sir, I believe mas appropriate po na masagot to ng BFP. Pero based on my knowledge po ay depende rin po kasi sa location po nung ating structure, nung building po. So kung nasa Metro Manila po siya, it's only appropriate po talaga na doon siya mag-apply. And yung sa plano naman po ay it's just really a matter kung sino po yung say engineer or architect ng plan. But yun nga po, kung ang location niya po ay nasa Metro Manila, it is only appropriate po talaga na mag-apply po nitong mga permits or ng mga clearances na ito from Metro Manila din. Other questions po? Yes po, nagtataas po yata ng kamay si Board Member Rodriguez. Yes sir, you may unmute po.
Hello ma'am, good morning.
Yes po, good morning.
May case po rito sa isang LGU unit, especially in barangay, merong isang applicant regarding sa quarry permit at humingi po ng barangay permit, itong applicant doon sa isang barangay. Tapos hindi po ina-issuean ng kapitan dahil siya na raw ang nakauna doon. So in short, inantayin after refile, hindi nakakapasok. Then ang gusto naman ng applicant na pumunta siya sa LGU municipal for an endorsement, ngayon binabalik naman uli sa barangay. Tapos same reason, ayaw talaga bigyan ng permit ng barangay kapitan, plus nagkaroon yata ng problema ng previous election dahil nagkalaban sila, parang ganon. So ang si barangay captain ba is liable for such penalties regarding in filing the first offense?
Pwede sumagot?
Oh, sige.
Hello, Kim.
Yes po, Board Member, this is Miss Louie po from the Central Office ng DILG.
Hi, good morning ma'am.
Good morning po, sir. Good morning po. Bali po, sir, as long as hindi nagbigay ng reason si CAP dun sa private sector nag-apply ng pari, kasi magdidepende po sa citizen charter niya. For example, ang nilagay ng citizen charter ng barangay, 3 days lang to issue the barangay clearance at hindi niya ginawa within 3 days, liable na po siya agad. Or the said barangay clearance is deemed approved pag hindi siya nag-action po or no any action or denial from the barangay captain na formal letter na binigay niya doon sa private sector na dinideny niya o inaprubahan niya, wala siyang ganong action sa loob ng 3 araw, deemed approve yun. So pwede na po siyang makasuhan, lalo na kung nandun sa barangay citizen charter niya na 3 days, dapat magbigay siya ng take action po. So it will be a ground for violation na po.
Bali po ma'am, yung si applicant ay pwede nang humingi ng endorsement sa municipal kasi naiabot na yung reklamo sa amin sa province. Sabi nga namin, we're still waiting for the endorsement of the municipal. Tapos yun naman, nireklamo ng kapitan ay dapat hindi na raw bigyan kasi siya na yata nauna sa area. Plus we found out na medyo nagka-problema sila politically dahil nagkabangga yata yung previous election. So yun ang,
Basta wala pong action si kapitan kung halimbawa barangay clearance, kasi barangay clearance can be issued simple po kasi hanggang 3 days po. So yun ang kinakon nila doon. So halimbawa within 3 days wala talagang action. Sinasabi nga ni kapitan na nauna siya, wala siyang kahit anong reason kung bakit niya dininay yun, automatic approve na po yun Nandiyan po yun sa batas. So, pero halimbawa, yun nga lang po, magkakaroon lang ng problema. Basta as long as may action po si LGU doon sa ni-request ng private sector po. So, wala siyang action within 3 days at yun ang nasa citizen charter ng barangay, dim approve yun at may violation na po talaga siya. No need of endorsement siguro kasi ibig sabihin, approve na yung barangay clearance niya So, wala na po siguro.
Okay.
Opo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes po, to add lang din po, yun nga po, na clear po doon sa ating EODB law po na hindi po nila pwedeng i-refuse without due cause. So hindi naman po talaga nag-provide ng kumbaga valid reason po kung bakit dinideny niya po or dinidisapprove po yung particular barangay clearance po. So yun nga po, as per Ma'am Louie, pwede talaga pong liable sila. Other questions po?
LGU question.
Yes po.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning po.
Gina from Quezon, Palawan po.
Yes.
Follow up po doon kay Board Member Rodriguez. Kung in case po na hindi nabigyan ng barangay na for clearance para sa endorsement po, ano naman po yung basis ng LGU, ng sanggunian, to endorse yung business ng nagko-complain galing sa barangay? Kasi isa po sa requirement namin usually is barangay clearance or certification. Ngayon, ano ang basis naman po ng sanggunian?
Hello po.
Hello? Hello, ma'am?
Yes po, ma'am.
Follow up po dun sa question ni Board Member Rodriguez kanina. Can you follow, ma'am?
Yes po.
Opo. Kung hindi po siya bibigyan ng barangay clearance or certification, ano po ang basis ng sanggunian to endorse the business? Kasi requirement din po namin ang barangay clearance or certification.
Because it is deemed approved.
Yes po. Opo. Actually, barangay clearance pa rin po. Yun nga po, 3 days po, 3 working days po without action or disapproval. Considered approved na po yung barangay clearance from the time of the application.
So who will consider it as deemed approved?
Yes po.
Sino po ang magkukonsider na deemed approved yun? Tatatakan ng secretary nila, ng treasurer, or ipipresent lang sa amin as deemed approved or what?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes po.
Opo. Kasi po, kumbaga, ibig sabihin, na-issue na po siya ng barangay clearance. So, will the city or municipality will already, parang kinukunan po nila na may barangay clearance, dala-dala na yung yung tao po. Pero ma'am, kasi di ba meron na po tayong integration ng barangay clearance for the city and municipalities. So, ang based sa bagong GMC po ngayon na ginagawa ngayon ng business permitting, the city or municipality will be the one to issue the barangay clearance po. So, in regards to business. So, nandun na rin po yun sa batas. So, may ginagawa po ng ARTA, DILG Joint Memorandum Circular regarding din po dyan. May bago tayong guidelines on business permit po for the new normal po.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Wala na? No more questions?
Do we have other questions po?
No questions from me too.
And so with no further questions po, let us move po sa ating next topic for today. So we have the overview, concepts and methods of DILG ARTA JMC 2019-01 sa ating pong regulatory reforms, to be presented to us by Ms. Lian Lara of the DILG BLGD, or the Bureau of Local Government Development. Ms. Lian?
Good morning po. Ako na po yung magsa-share ng screen. Ba?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning po.
Okay. Okay, good morning everybody. Can you see the screen na po? Can you see my presentation na?
Yes, Ms. Lian.
Yes, thank you. Again, my name is Lian Lara. I'm from the Bureau of Local Government Development, and I will be discussing about the DILG ARTA Joint Memorandum Circular on Regulatory Reform. So, alam ko po na since we've been discussing about EODB, so lahat ng mga policies, particularly from the BLGD, ay na-discuss na this past few days. And today, ang i-discuss ko po ay ito nga po na itong MC namin or JMC namin with ARTA. So, to give you a little background, this is also pursuant to the Section 5 of the RA number 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business Act. Kasi sabi nga po doon sa batas na lahat ng government agencies which, okay, excuse me. Okay. Saglit lang po Okay. So lahat ng government agency which provide government services are hereby mandated to regularly undertake cost compliance analysis, time and motion studies, undergo evaluation and improvement of their transaction system and procedures, and re-engineering at the same time, the same if deemed necessary to reduce bureaucratic red tape and processing time. So in support to this, this JMC has been issued so that it will support the implementation of the Act, and also its specific provision in view of the PDP 2017-2022 that ensure people-centered, clean, efficient governance through seamless service delivery. So the DILG is issued MC number 2018-214 titled The Engineering of LGU Systems and Procedures on EODB EGSD Act of 2018. Okay. So to assist the LGUs in compliance with the standards of the Act, the department, with the support of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, provides these guidelines, which aims to improve the delivery of government service in the country by reviewing business and non-business related local ordinances and issuances, and recommend the repeal, amendment, consolidation, or retain as may deem necessary to eliminate unnecessary burden to business and non-business related transaction. So dahil nga po may effort ang ating government to have this repeal ng mga and amendment, consolidation, and retain ng mga policies para hindi na po ma-burden yung ating mga constituents. So alam po natin na for the past several years, marami po tayong napasa ng mga ordinances and policies, and we want to review kung relevant pa ba ito, or ito ba ay nakakadagdag ng burden sa ating mga kababayan o sa mga tao, sa mga particularly yung mga business and even the non-business related transaction. So ang legal basis natin dito ay ang Republic Act number 11032, syempre, an act promoting ease of doing business and efficient delivery of government services, which amends for the purpose of RA 9482, otherwise as Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007, and other purposes. Also, we have DILG ARTA CSC Joint Memorandum Circular number 2019-001, or the IRR of RA 1103 to otherwise as the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act of 2018. We also have, I think you are also familiar with this, it was discussed na naman po yung DILG MC 2019-177, or yung guidelines in the integration of the issuance of barangay clearance in permitting processes of cities and municipalities. Meron din po tayo na DILG DOF Joint Memorandum Circular, or yung JMC number 2019-01. It is the guidelines for review, adjustment, setting, or adoption of the reasonable regulatory fees and charges of LGUs. So ito po yung MC na nagbibigay ng guidelines sa ating mga LGU para maningil ng reasonable fees and charges na may basis para ina-address po nito yung mga problema na merong mga iba't ibang LGUs na iba't iba din yung fee. So this JMC, hindi niya ini-standardize, but ginagawa niyang reasonable yung fees and charges. Bakit tayo naniningil ng particular amount? Ano po yung basis nun? So yun po ang, this is what this JMC is all about. Next is the DILG MC 2018-214, or the re-engineering of LGU system and procedures in compliance to EODBE-GSD Act of 2018. So the law itself says that LGU should re-engineer processes. So bilang tugon po dito, ang DILG ay nagkaroon ng MC para magkaroon ng guidelines ang mga LGUs to re-engineer their LGU systems and procedures. So we also have the DILG DPWH DICT DTI JMC 2018-01. Ito naman po yung guidelines ng streamlining of processes for the issuance of building permit and certificate of occupancy. So nandito po yung standard din, kung ilang days, ilang signatory, etc. Ganon din po, meron din tayo na DILG DTI DICT Joint Memorandum Circular number 2016-01. Ito naman po yung revised standards in processing business permit and licenses in all cities and municipalities. We also have the Executive Order number 292 instituting the Administrative Code of 1987. And of course, we have the Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022, kung saan dito naka-anchor ang ating mga MCs and policies na ini-issue. Okay. So ang purpose po ng JMC na ito is to provide guidelines that aim to ensure good regulatory practices in policy-making process in local government units. So specifically po, isa-isahin natin, ang JMC na ito, it aims to enjoin the LGUs. First is to review business and non-business related ordinances, resolutions, and issuances that affect the country's global competitiveness, ranking, and investment climate. So as I mentioned earlier, there are so many resolutions and issuances and ordinances that has been issued by LGUs in the country. So this JMC enjoins them to really review kailangan if those resolutions, issuances, and policies are still relevant, or does it make the life of the people harder, or pwede bang tanggalin? So yun po. And then pangalawa, to enhance efficiency in issuing permits, licenses, clearances, and other similar documents by lowering the cost of compliance for business and transacting public. So we want the life of those who are applying for permits, licenses, and clearance to be easier. And then to institutionalize an evidence-based repeal or amend system ultimately towards a coherent and better regulation. So mamaya po i-discuss din natin yung tungkol sa repeal, ano ba ang dapat nire-repeal. Isa po ito sa mga options na binibigay ng JMC na ito. And then next, to democratize regulatory reform process through public consultation and participation. Because we know na ang mag-benefit naman talaga sa mga magagandang regulatory, sa mga magagandang policies and magaganda na ipinatutupad ng gobyerno ay ang public. So they should be consulted and they should participate so that it would have democratic regulatory reform process. Okay, so sino ba ang cover ng JMC na ito? Ang cover ng JMC ay ang mga provincial governors, cities, and municipal mayors, as well as the punong barangay. We also have sangguniang panlalawigan, panglungsod, bayan, and barangay. And also we have BILG regional, provincials, and field officers. So, bago po natin i-discuss yung laman ng JMC, we would like to discuss first yung mga terms na makikita natin on this JMC. First is amend. So, what does it mean? It means to modify or alter an enacted law, ordinance, or issuance. So, ibig sabihin, hindi mawala po yung law, ordinance, or issuance, meron lang tayong babaguhin. Next, consolidate. To integrate multiple similar laws or issuances into one legal document. So, as we know, there are ordinances and issuances na na-issue siya ng maraming beses na pwede naman na isang legal document lang. So, para mas konti yung regulations or yung ordinances or issuances, we consolidate them. Next is repeal. Ito po yung sinasabi kanina, to revoke laws, local ordinance, or issuances. So meaning, tatanggalin na talaga kasi we find it irrelevant. Retain ang sunod, to keep laws, local ordinances, and issuances which are still effective in its current form. So, ang nagpo-fall po dito are those ordinances and issuances na na-issue natin in the past, and we still think that it's still effective and still relevant until today. Okay, so proceed na po tayo sa policy, content, and guidelines ng regulatory reform framework. So, meron po tayong steps para dito. Ang una po is to create. So ano yung i-create? Number 1, creation and designation of the RR team or RRT, Regulatory Reform Team. So sabi po dito, para mas maging effective ang ating papatupad ng regulatory reform, there should be a team who is responsible for it. So the local chief executives or the LCEs shall issue an executive order designating the heads and members of the departments or offices as part of the RRT. So there should also be, yun nga po, executive order para ma-designate natin yung RRT. Mamaya po, i-discuss natin sino-sino ba yung magiging members ng RRT. And then, next, number 2 is to engage. So, engage stakeholders, engagement, and participation. So, the public as the primary stakeholders affected by the government policies should be consulted in formulation and modifications of regulations and other reforms on LGU policies. So, ito pong regulatory reform should be done by numerous stakeholders and they should be engaged, especially the public. Okay, number 3 po is stock take. So, yung stock taking, it refers to the listing of the policies. So, ano-ano yung mga policies na na-issue in the past. And upon creation of RRT, its first agenda is to conduct an inventory of all existing issuances, resolutions, and ordinances implemented by the LGUs. So we also acknowledge that this job is not easy. So meron po rin tayong mga initiative to help the LGUs para mas makapag effectively stock take. So we will be discussing it later po. Number 4 is to review. So, since balik po tayo, bigyan natin ng okay. So, ang sunod po is to review. So, we have the RRT na, we engage the stakeholders, then we stock take. So, meron na tayong lista. Yung pang-apat natin gagawin is to review. Review of local ordinances and issuances. So, the RRT may create a regulatory map which provides an overview of the regulatory environment through identifying the correlation among the regulations. Then next is to adapt. Yung adapt po, adoption of policy options. So based on its review, pagkatapos pong ma-review ng mga policies, based on the review and assessment, the RRT shall recommend the proper policy option, whether it should be yung diniscuss po natin kanina, number 1, i-repeal na ba ito o tatanggalin? Pangalawa, amended ba o may babaguhin lang? And then pangatlo, kung may nakita silang mga policies na pare-parehas, should it be consolidated lang? And then number 4, yung isang option is to retain or keep it because it's still relevant. And then number 6 po is to monitor. So the RRT may use the M&E to develop recommendations for future policy improvement. Okay, number 7 po, digitalization or the use of information and communication technology. So R4LGUs, PBRIS, and LGU website shall be used for the online repository of all LGUs ordinances and issuances. So there are initiatives po to use the information and communication technologies for this. So number 1 po ay yung R4LGUs. It developed by the ISTMS of the DILG. I-discuss din po ito kung hindi ako nagkakamali. But we saw the system na po And we believe that it will be very effective and efficient para magamit po to digitize our regulatory reform. And then number 8, capacity building. So to strengthen LGU skills on the issuance, review, and formulation of policies and regulations for their constituent. So we believe that this initiative is new to some of us. For some of us, it may be we are familiar with the regulatory reform. Pero in order for us to do our part, we should be capacitated. So, kaya po siya kasama doon sa steps. And then, number 9, filing of regulations to furnish a copy and approve local ordinances, resolutions, and issuances to UP, Office of the National Administrative Register or ONAR. So, ito po yung magpo-proceed na po tayo sa general guidelines of the policies. So, again, as I mentioned earlier, the first one is to create. So, sino ba yung magiging members ng RRT? So, this MC, meron po kaming nilagay na suggestion kung sino-sino. So, for example, sa province, the head will be the provincial governor, ang co-head po ang vice governor, at ang members po ay ang mga sangguniang panlalawigang members, at least 3 of any related committee to be designated by the sanggunian through a resolution. We also have provincial administrator as represented of each department and offices, and then provincial planning and development coordinator. We also have provincial legal officer, chief records office, representative of CSO or civil society organization, and NGO. Ang secretariat po natin, we have the secretary of the Sanggunian head and the provincial governor staff. So at the same time, we also have suggestion for the cities and municipalities and barangay. So ito po yung mga yon. Meron tayong municipal mayor, vice mayor, tapos also parang the same din po sa composition ng province and as well as sa barangay. Ito po. Don't worry, we will furnish you po a copy of this one para mas makita po natin. And if you have questions, you may type po in the chat box para after po ng presentation ay ma-address po natin. Okay. So, function of the team. So, ano po yung mga roles and responsibilities ng RRT? So, number 1 is to take all existing local ordinances and issuances made by LGUs solely or jointly made with other LGUs or NGAs. Number 2, conduct public dialogues with stakeholders such as NGA, CSO, and other private sector to identify cumbersome regulations and determine priority ordinances and issuances for review and assessment. This is also very important po kasi during the public dialogues with numerous stakeholders, we also gather different point of views kung ano ba yung mas cumbersome na regulation, ano ba yung hindi na nakakatulong, ano ba yung pwedeng tanggalin. So, pag meron, the more na magkakaroon ng maraming stakeholders, mas makakakuha po tayo ng ibang perspective. And then review, assess, prioritize local ordinances, resolutions, and issuances if redundant, outdated, or unnecessary using the 4-way test. So mamaya po meron tayong 4-way test na i-discuss. Nasa annex po ito ng ating MC. So ito po ang magiging basis natin or magiging guide sa pag-review or pag-assess ng mga local ordinances. And then recommend policy options that may be adopted by LGUs. So as we mentioned earlier, si RRT, pwede niyang i-recommend na ang ordinances or resolutions or issuances ay i-repeal ba, i-amend ba, consolidate ba, or i-retain. And then draft policies based on the result of the assessment. Next is to accomplish the regulatory reform technical report or the RRT, and then to create a monitoring and evaluation system. Okay, meron din po tayo to create and or update the database system and the LGU website. So the website include all ordinances, issuances, and resolutions with their corresponding amendments. The most current and updated Citizens Charter with all services offered classified as simple, complex, and highly technical. It should be business friendly and accessible. Next po is to establish regulatory management procedures and methodologies in modification, adoption, implementation, and evaluation of existing local ordinances, issuances, and resolutions of LGUs. Also, the team should conduct studies, reviews in the promotion of efficient government service delivery, service, and ease of doing business. Dapat din po na meron sila na mag-conduct ng quarterly meeting as need arises with proper documentation and to ensure regular and timely submission to DILG and ARTA. So, as mentioned earlier, yung DILG and ARTA, we will require yung pong report on this. So, the RRT should ensure that it should be regularly and timely submitted. Okay, so stakeholders, engagement, and participation. The LGUs may reach the stakeholders through the following approaches. So we also know and note, this is well noted that during this time of pandemic, this will be a challenge, and we should consider na during this stakeholder engagement and participation, proper health protocols should be observed. So number one po dito, conduct of consultations or FGD with business groups, chambers, industry, representative, critical national government agency, LGU leagues, legal and technical experts, cooperatives, and civil society organization. And then crowdsourcing through conduct of online survey is segmented by business entity type and by industry. Options on mode of implementation are as follows. Number one, in-house creation of online platforms, outsourcing of consultant to develop online platform, conduct of real-time assessment through face-to-face interview from randomly and purposefully selected clientele base. So again, we would like to point out po na during pandemic, LGU should be creative on this one na ma-engage and makapag-participate yung stakeholder. So though na sabi naman po dito na ini-encourage yung pag-create or paggamit ng mga online platforms so that the voices of those other stakeholders can be heard. Excuse me. Okay, stock taking po, number 3. So yung diniscuss po kanina, there are 3 approaches in stock takings of local ordinances, resolutions, and issuance. To wit, number 1, assign the Secretary of the Sanggunian and Records Department, request from all operational units, and outsource the development of a database. So it will depend on you, on your capacity din po, and kung ano yung magiging arrangement para mas mapadali po ang stock taking. And then, review of laws and issuances. In addition to 4-way tests, The regulatory map may also assist the RRT in assessing whether the policy is cumbersome, unnecessary, outdated, and redundant. In case of the local government is well capacitated in RIA, the RRT shall conduct RIA and upload or submit the supplementary reports according to the guidelines to be released by ARTA. So there are local government units or there are people in the local governments na makapacitate po sa RIA. So this will be very helpful in the reviewing of laws and issuances. Then, adopt policy options. After the review of the local ordinances and issuances, the LGU shall proceed to adopt an action policies. So whether it is number 1, to repeal, to amend, to consolidate, or to retain. The RRT shall submit its recommendation to LCEs, to the Vice Governor or Vice Mayor for ordinances or resolution. The recommendation shall be considered by the sangguniang concerned in repealing or amending ordinances, resolutions, and issuances. So once a policy option is adopted, the RRT shall accomplish the regulatory reform technical report. Next po is the M&E. So M&E on policy review must undertaken for all local ordinances, resolutions, and issuances to analyze whether the policy has achieved its desired objectives. The RRT may use the M&E to develop the recommendation for policy improvement. Next po is digitalization and use of ICT. So as you notice po, the roles and responsibilities of the RRT is anchored doon pa rin po sa mga steps na ating diniscuss kanina. Nandoon na po tayo sa digitalization and use of ICT. So DILG ARTA, Regulatory Reform Information System for LGUs, or the Regulatory Reform for LGUs, R4LGUs. DILG field officers shall be provided with accounts to access the R4LGUs. All forms are downloaded on the system. Accomplished forms shall be uploaded in the system for the accessibility of the DILG, BLGD, and ARTA. So again, this is to update our DILG field officers. Kahapon nagkaroon po kami ng meeting with our ISTMS or yung IT and who is developing this system. So tinuruan na po kami and we-knock through po kami on this R4LGUs. And hopefully, when it's okay na, we can capacitate din yung iba po para po mas magamit or mas ma-utilize yung RR4LGUs for this one. Next po is the PBRIS or the Philippine Business Regulation Information System. All submittals inventories of the business-related local issuances and ordinances resolution shall be uploaded in the PBRIS pursuant to Section 17 of RA 11032. So PBRIS shall serve as data repository of public source information on updated ordinances and resolutions. So meron po tayong pwedeng magamit dito, yung regulatory map, yung Annex 4 po ng MC na ito, and Annex 5. Okay, yung last po na option natin is we can also use our website if you have one. It is recommended that LGUs shall utilize their respective official websites as an online repository. Of local ordinances, issuances, and resolutions for the purpose of transparency. So, alam ko marami na pong LGUs ang na may sarili silang website. So, we can just utilize it and maximize our website for this one po. The publication and posting requirement of local ordinances, resolutions, and issuances shall be complied with pursuant to the Local Government Code of 1991 and other existing laws, rules, and regulations. So next po is yung capacity building. So LGUs or RRT shall attend various related trainings, especially on the EODB, like regulatory impact analysis and others, to strengthen LGU skills on the issuance, review, and formulations of policies and regulations for these constituents. So this one is an example of this. And kung marami po pong opportunities for us or for the RRT to attend training, then let's do so para mas maging effective po ang ating gawa o pag-fulfill ng ating roles and responsibilities. And then 9, filing of regulations. So the RRT Secretariat shall furnish a copy of approved local ordinances, resolutions, and issuances to the UP Office of National Administrative Register or Honor pursuant to Administrative Code of 1987. Okay, ngayon naman po, ang susunod natin na stakeholders na i-discuss na may roles and responsibilities ay ang DILG. Ano nga ba ang role ng DILG dito? So number 1, to publicize the issuance of the JMC on regulatory reforms. Number 2, develop and maintain DILG regulatory reforms information systems for LGUs or the R4LGUs. And then we also have to conduct necessary orientation, workshop, capacity building to DILG field offices and LGUs on regulatory reform guidelines and system. So this is the main reason why we are conducting this online seminar po, kasi based din po ito sa nakalagay sa JMC. And then ensure and monitor compliance of LGUs on the regulatory reform guidelines. We also have to consolidate or filter all outputs in the RR for LGUs. And then we have to notify ARTA of the submission in the RR for LGUs every last month of the quarter. At the same time, we are grateful to have the Anti-Red Tape Authority on board to this implementation of this JMC. So nakalagay din po dito ang kanilang roles and responsibilities. Number 1 is to assist in the conduct of necessary orientation, workshop, capacity building to DILG field offices and LGUs on regulatory reform guidelines. Number 2 is to assess the output uploaded for the RR4 LGUs pursuant to Section 5, Paragraph 2 of the RA 11032 and directed inform the relevant LGUs on the result of the assessment. ARTA should also publish inventories of ordinances, resolutions, and issuances in PBRIS. And lastly, prepare regulatory management manuals for LGUs as stipulated in Section 17, letter G of RA 11032. So I guess that's it po. Maraming salamat po sa pakikinig, and if you have question, you can just type in the type box, and si Miss Louie would be very helpful para sagutin po ang ating mga katanungan.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Lian.
Thank you po.
Okay. If you have any questions po, please type them down in our chat box. Also, pwede rin po kayong mag-raise ng hand. And then you can unmute din po. Ayan, habang wala pa pong nagtatanong, we would like to acknowledge din po, meron po tayong mga kasama from the Office of the Vice Governor of Palawan. Welcome po. Okay, so meron pala kanina mga dumating. This is from YouTube, Sir Felix Echevarria. sipag magtanong ni Sir Felix. So, ang sabi niya dito, sa dami ng batas natin sa ARTA or RA 9514, CSCRA 6713, at ito nga, ang RA 11032, bakit po mababa pa rin ang ranking ng Pilipinas sa Corruption Survey Index? Ano po kaya ang problema? Since sagana na tayo sa batas. Siguro po dito sa sir, mas mainam po siguro if we can raise the question mamaya sa ating anti-red tape authority, since we do not have the appropriate data, we do not have the data, we didn't conduct a scientific study po regarding po sa rankings natin sa corruption. So we can, balikan po natin mamaya. And then another one, from Sir Roderick Sionisio, tama po ba? Paano po pag hindi in-approve ng barangay captain ang barangay clearance dahil may violation po ito sa barangay? Ano po next na magiging action? So maybe po, pwede po paki-clarify kung ano po itong violation po na ito? Sir Roderick Sionisio.
Hello, Ma'am Kim. That's a question from YouTube, ma'am. So,
Sige po.
we'll just seek feedback from Sir Roderick regarding the matter.
Sige, na lang po natin. Balikan po natin. I-clarify po muna natin regarding po sa violation po. Any other questions? Po regarding po sa diniscuss po ni Ms. Lian, yung ating ARTA JMC 2019-01, the JMC with DILG and ARTA. Ms. Sid, wala pa bang question sa YouTube?
Miss Kim, ma'am, pwede mag-add doon sa kinuha ni Lian?
Yes, ma'am. Sige po.
Oo. Regarding sa creation ng regulatory reform team lang, mas maganda sana kung may resolution ba ordinance from the local government units in the creation of the RRT. At the same time, mas lalawak po kasi ang role ng regulatory reform team kasi naglabas po ang anti-red tape ng memorandum circular on the Committee on Anti-Red Tape or the CART. So nando po sa provision na yun that the RRT shall be considered also as a committee on anti-red tape. Medyo mas expand lang po ang composition ng Committee on Anti-Red Tape kasi po sa ating kasi sa RRT we only include the local administrator as representative of all the department in the LGUs po. Pero in the CART po, na halos marami po silang in-include doon na the department sa CART. So, but the CART, the RRT may expand po. Sila na rin pong gagamitin regarding po sa re-engineering as discussed po kanina sa EODB law, particularly on section 5 of the EODB law. So the RRT will be expanded the role as the Committee on Anti-Red Tape or the re-engineering team po. So for the information po. So for the information din po, the DILG will be issued hopefully by this year, end of the year. Ma-issue namin streamlining of LGU systems and procedures for business and non-business related transactions. So dito po sa MC na to, nakalagay na po dito yung mga ano yung mga transactions that fall into simple, complex, and highly technical para standard po yung local government units. Kasi para hindi po nagsasabi na bakit dito ang pag-release ng birth certificate 2 days lang, bakit doon sa kabila 1 day lang. So will be set a uniform standard po and how the LG will go through to the re-engineering of their systems and procedures. Sa cities and municipalities muna po yun. So yun po. So hopefully it will be this year po yun. And then also yung GMC on business permitting for the new normal po, inaayos na po ng ART and DILG nagkaroon na rin po ng consultation with the BPLO. So po yun, magkakaroon po tayo ng may konting revision po tayo sa ating pag-issue ng permit, which include na rin po yung Bureau of Fire Protection sa mga inaayos po natin. Kasama rin po sa consultation. That's all, Ms. Kim.
Thank you, Ma'am Louie. So yun nga po, meron tayong mainit-init na ARTA MC. Yun nga pong sinabi ni Ma'am Louie. That is MC 2020-07. So I believe yung mga participants naman po dito ay meron ng mga sari-sariling regulatory reform team or what we call the RRT. So yung sinabi po ni Ma'am Louie, for your information po, yun nga pong guidelines on the designation of a committee on anti-red tape o yung sinabi po niya na CART. So, ayun po, maliwanagan lang po kayo. Yung MC 2020-07 is a set of guidelines po issued by the ARTA for the formation of a committee on anti-red tape of government offices and agencies. So ano po ito? Yun po ay isang unit in a government agency or in the office which shall ensure that they strictly comply with the provisions of the EODP law or RA 11032 and its implementing rules and regulations and other issuances. So yun po, I think ito po yung latest na MC ng ARTA. So going back, meron po tayong question from YouTube. From the ILG Española. Follow-up question, RA 7160 or the local government code provides 7 days for barangay station clearance. RA 11032 provides 3 days na lang. So amended na yung RA. Yes po, amended na po yung particular provision na yun from RA 7160 ng EODP law.
Kim, one more pa pala, sorry.
Sige po.
Oo. Yung ating regulatory reform po, para siyang codification. Kung may mga matatagal na dito po sa DILG, we had a program before on codification. So, particular lang to sa mga sa ordinance or resolutions po. So, ang nangyayari lang po doon dati, binabay sector lang yung mga ordinance and resolutions na ina-issue po. So dito po, meron lang po tayong analysis na gagawin, which is to repeal or to retain or amend or consolidate that policy po. So yun po. And yan. So maybe Renz will discuss the form na lang po mamaya.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Louie. If there are no other questions po, maybe we can proceed na po with our next speaker. Okay, so to discuss the annexes and forms, in relation pa rin po sa ating DILG R4LGUs 2019-01, may I present to you our resource speaker, also from DILG Central Office of BLGB, Mr. John Renz Gilua. Sir Renz?
Hi, good morning everyone. Naririnig po ba ako?
Loud and clear, sir.
Ayan po. So, nakita niyo na rin po yung presentation na shinare ko po?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nakihan na lang po.
Pa-presenter view lang.
Ayan, okay na po?
Okay na po, sir.
Okay po. Sige po. So, good morning again. I am John Renz Gilua, Renz for short. I am also from Bureau of Local Government Development. So now I am going to explain the annexes of the DILG ARTA Joint Memorandum Circular. So all in all, there are 5 annexes, 4 of which are forms and the other one is a guideline. Okay. So first, I'm going to provide a short background of the annexes. So it is mas maganda po kung i-familiarize na po natin yung mga sarili po natin sa mga terms para po mas madali po natin maintindihan mamaya all throughout the discussion. Okay, so first, Annex 1, Stakeholder Analysis. The Stakeholder Analysis provides a map of all the relevant stakeholders to determine the group or class where they belong, their willingness to engage, and their potential contribution to the implementation of local ordinances, resolutions, and issuances. So this annex is very important because this ensures that there will be citizens participation during the entire regulatory reform process. So it helps to ensure that the public will be consulted during the amendment, consolidation, or repeal of local policies. So next, Annex 2 four-way test. It was developed during the fourth cycle of Project Repeal. This contains the guide questions that may assist the regulatory reform team in the decision-making process. So this is not a form, but this is a guideline. Next, Annex 3, the Regulatory Reform Technical Report. It encompasses three types of tertiary regulation. So, na-explain po ni Ms. Lian kanina kung ano po yung mga regulations na sakop ng Regulatory Reform Technical Report. The RRTR shall include the recommended policy option, the list of other regulations it affects, the rationale for the policy option, and their possible impact when adopted. And for the Annex 4 regulatory map, this form includes all pertinent information of the ordinances, issuances, and resolutions deemed for policy reform. The regulatory map may assist the regulatory reform team through outlining the local regulatory ecosystem. So this annex is also very important because this contains all the pertinent information of the policy. So, di ba, a map should be complete. It must contain all the relevant information kasi kapag kulang-kulang yung map, wala siyang kwenta, maliligaw ka pa rin. So, ganoon din po sa regulatory map because it must the information regarding the local policy must be encoded using the Annex 4 para matulungan po and to aid the regulatory reform process. Okay, and lastly, the Annex 5 for new issuances. So this form will be used once there is already an amended or consolidated policy. All right. So how to fill out the forms? Okay. So first, the stakeholder analysis or the Annex 1. So I used the layout from the regulatory reform brochure that we forwarded during the training of trainers conducted by ISTMS. So I think the DLG regional office can also send that to you after this training. However, nevertheless the contents of this layout are still the same with the JMC. All right, so the succeeding slides contain the specific instructions on how to fill out this form, but for the sake of our discussion and for you to visualize this form, we're going to stay in this slide. All right. Ibibigay naman po sa inyo ng DLG Regional Office yung presentations po namin later on. All right, so first, provide us the province, city, or municipality. Next, as you can see, there are 6 columns in this form. First, under the column 1, kindly list the laws, ordinances, resolutions, or other issuances being subject to amendment, repeal, consolidation, or retain. Under column 2, write the name of the individuals and or organizations that the ordinance, resolution, or other issuances affects. So for the stakeholder name, you may write, for example, if the affected stakeholders are tricycle drivers, jeepney drivers, or truck drivers, or taxi drivers, then all those different kinds of drivers, you have to encode that under this column in stakeholder name. All right. So next, in column 3, write the group or class that the stakeholder belongs to help you group better together the same stakeholders. So ano yung difference na column 2 and column 3? In column 3 po, i-generalize po natin kung ano man yung nilagay natin sa column 2. So if sa column 2 nilagay po natin na yung mga different types of drivers, then in column 3, pwede po natin siya i-generalize as transportation or whatever na pwede po mag-generalize doon sa stakeholders na nilagay po natin sa number 2. Alright? Parang pagsasama-samahin po natin under a single class or kung ano man po yung mag-a-apply. Next, in column 4, willingness to engage, identify and write your assessment of the stakeholders' willingness to engage, may it be high or low. So may dalawa pong option na ilalagay po dito sa column 4, either high or low. So somehow the willingness to engage of the citizens or the stakeholders reflects their opinion on the policy. For example, if their willingness to engage is low, maybe they do not want that policy to be amended or they do not want that policy to be repealed. Or also if if they do not want, maybe they do not also want that, they do not want the LGU to focus on that policy. Baka meron silang mas gustong policy na bigyang focus ng LGU. So depende naman po 'yun sa stakeholders natin. And for the column 5, influence or potential, assess the rate of influence of the stakeholder, identify the number of members, followers, or networks in their organizations. So in column 5 po, you may write numbers or statistics. For example, there are 500 tricycle drivers that will be affected, or for example, 20% of the population of this municipality will be affected. So ilalagay po natin 'yon in the influence or potential. Also, you may indicate the stakeholders' potential contribution or interest to your LGU or organization. So this may apply, for example, if ang concerned stakeholder po ng policy na to ay isang non-government organization. So in column 5, in influence or potential, you have to write if that non-government organization po ay partner ba ng ating LGU in the implementation of projects, or is that NGO a partner of LGU in, for example, in procuring supplies or in conducting seminars to the citizens. So ilalagay po natin 'yon sa influence or potential. And lastly, in column 6, evaluate whether to engage the stakeholder and the level of engagement the LGU is going to undertake with them. So for the action point, we have provided samples or different levels of engagement that the LGU may pursue. Ito po yung way para masigurado natin na magkakaroon ng citizens participation na magko-consult yung public. Alright? So for the different levels of engagement, meron po tayong four options. So first, consultation. The agency or LGU conducts a dialogue or one-on-one consultation or a focus group discussion with stakeholders for a particular concern or policy. So alam naman na po natin to, ginagawa na po natin to even before the JMC. Nagkakandak na tayo ng FGD whenever we propose a policy, di ba? Next, information. The agency or LGU simply informs the stakeholder of new policies or activities. So this level of engagement may apply if the proposed change in the policy is just minimal, meaning hindi mababago yung core, yung pinaka core nung policy natin. If that's the case, then hindi na kailangan ng focus group discussion or other forms of or other levels of engagement because the change is just minimal or ayun, na hindi mababago significantly yung policy. Next, partnership. The level of engagement between the agency or LGU is more than policy making. Oftentimes, conduct of joint implementation of policies are enacted. So in partnership po, this will apply if the LGU has existing partnerships with different organizations or non-government organizations in the implementation of projects. So of course, dahil partner na natin siya in implementation of projects, then when you repeal that policy or when you amend that policy, you have to conduct partnership with them. You have to involve them in the policy making kasi syempre apektado rin sila because again, they are your partner in the implementation of projects. And lastly, representation. So citizen stakeholders become part of policy recommending or policy making bodies. Stakeholders who have high influence peers can contribute and engage regularly with agency or LGU can be considered here. So in representation po, this will apply if the proposed ordinance involves technical requirements. So for example, the policy is about construction industry. Then if that is the case, then the LGU may consider gathering representatives from the construction industry to be involved in the policy making. So in representation, the representatives of the different sectors will be part of the policy making who will be also contribute in amending or in suggesting or in recommending proper provisions or proper measures to improve the policy. So also the LGU may combine different levels of engagement. For example, they may conduct consultation and representation or consultation or partnership. Depende po yan sa LGU. Ang importante po dito is that ano yung way na masisigurado ng LGU that there will be citizens participation, that the public will be consulted during the entire regulatory reform process. Yun po yung pinaka-goal natin dito in different levels of engagement. Alright, so next, the four-way test. As you can see, it is answerable by yes or no. This is not a guideline. This is not a form, but more on a guideline. So this annex contains different questions. So that is answerable by yes or no. So this form helps you to determine whether a specific policy needs to be amended, to be repealed, or to be consolidated. All right. So to determine whether the policy is outdated or obsolete, and yan po yung question number 1 natin from this annex. So to determine whether a specific policy is outdated or obsolete, we have provided you different questions. So first, is there a new law repealing or superseding the law under review from which the department order or memorandum circular emanated from? So in our case, it is the local policies. So meron na bang law na that makes that policy that supersedes that policy? Then if your answer in any of these questions is yes, then that policy is a candidate for repeal. Dapat i-repeal na natin siya dahil hindi na siya valid. Meron ng bagong batas na nagpo-provide for the same subject matter. But if your answer is no, then you are going to proceed with number 2. Ito po yung question number 2 natin. So to determine whether the policy is still applicable at present time, we have also provided you guide questions. So first, does the issuance need to be updated due to some changes in the law that are pertinent or basis of a requirement? So in this case po, we have provided you an example. So due to train law, personal tax exemption may no longer be required as provided in the PBR issuance. So dahil meron ng bagong batas na nagpe-prescribe for the tax exemption, or dahil meron ng bagong batas na nagpo-provide for additional process or requirement, then you have to amend that policy. Then that policy is a candidate for amendment. So ino-note po natin yon dahil kadalasan po there will be instances that a specific policy needs to be amended, but at the same time it must be consolidated with other policies. So ino-note po natin siya na kailangan natin siya i-amend. Alright? So proceed po tayo sa question number 3. To determine whether the policy is redundant or inconsistent with other regulations, we have also provided you guide questions. So first, one of the questions is, are there 2 or more issuances that have the same subject matter? So marami na bang issuances or ordinances na kinreate ang LGU, and because of that, nalilito na yung mga tao kung anong susundin? Then if that is the case, that policy is a candidate for consolidation. Kailangan natin siyang i-consolidate with other ordinances. So ito po yung time na nagko-codify po tayo. So ito po yung kadalasan ginagawa ng LGUs na nagko-codify ng mga ordinance para to make that ordinance more comprehensive and more impactful. All right? So if your answer is no, then hindi siya candidate for consolidation, proceed po tayo sa number 4. So does it create undue regulatory burden to the transacting public? So for question number 4, we have provided you one question. Has the implementation of the regulation been ineffective or detrimental in achieving its intended objectives, and as a result produces suboptimal and undesirable social outcomes? So yung ordinance ba na ito ay nag-create lang ng another process or ng another requirement na hindi naman talaga natin kailangan? Diba? If your answer is yes, then dapat i-repeal mo na yung ordinance na yon. So that ordinance is a candidate for repeal. But if sa tingin mo na that ordinance is very important because there is a law that provides for that ordinance, or there is a that ordinance provides a very important requirement in, for example, in getting business permits, then you have to retain that policy. All right. So as a clarification po, the questions as provided in this annex is not the controlling factor on the proper policy option that the LGU must adopt. Again, the LGU must still consider the results of the citizens participation through the stakeholder analysis. Kasi yun po yung dapat natin magiging basis pa din, kasi yun yung resulta ng consultation natin sa public. Yun yung gusto nilang mangyari on that policy. So we may also consider the result of that policy, of that analysis. All right. So moving forward, so for the sake of our discussion, we are going to proceed with Annex 4 in regulatory map, because some of the information that will be encoded or that will be needed in Annex 3 will also come from Annex 4. Meaning, kapag nilagay na po natin, pag in-encode na po natin sa Annex 4, hindi na po natin siya kailangan i-encode manually sa Annex 3 kasi na-encode na natin siya sa Annex 4. Alright? So also, the succeeding slides contain the specific instructions on how to fill out this form, but for the sake of our discussion, we are going to stay on this slide. All right. So under the column 1, provide the policy number or code of the ordinance or the policy. Under the column 2, indicate the title of the ordinance or the policy. And under the column 3, supply the date of the approval of the ordinance or resolution or the policy. So as you can infer, mapapansin po natin na the information that are needed in this form will come from the actual or physical copy of the policy. So kokopyahin na lang po natin yon sa mismong copy ng ordinance. Next, in column 4, specify all the legal bases relevant to the ordinance, resolution, or issuance. So sometimes the LGU is citing legal bases in their ordinance or in their issuances. But also, if sa tingin po natin meron pong hindi na-cite yung LGU sa ordinance natin or sa issuance, pwede pa rin naman po natin yung ilagay sa legal basis in this column as long as sa tingin po natin is mag-a-apply yung policy na yon. Next, under the column 5, identify the sector for the intended purpose of the ordinance. So as you can see, we have provided you an example of sectors: social, environmental, infrastructure, economic, and institutional. So I think this is already inclusive. But if you think na meron po kami hindi nasama, pwede pa rin naman po kayo maglagay ng sector. Alright? So next, for column 6, put BR if business related and NBR if non-business related. This column pertains to the policy po, whether that policy is business related or non-business related. Okay, for the column 7, identify the coverage of the impact for the stakeholders of the policy. So we have provided you an example: local, provincial, regional, or national. So some of you might say na kapag LGU pinag-uusapan, ang palaging coverage is local. But I think there will be instances that the coverage will be provincial or regional or also national. For example, if the policy prescribes a partnership, for example, the LGU has conducted partnership with the provincial government, then the coverage of the policy will be provincial, di ba? So pinapayagan naman po yan under the local government code, the partnerships of different LGUs that will benefit them. Next, but I think kadalasan po the coverage of the policy is local. Next, under column 8, indicate the number of stakeholders affected by the ordinance, resolution, or issuance. So we have provided you a guide in answering this column in measure. So you have to put 1 to 5 You have to put minor if there are 1 to 5 stakeholders that are involved, medium if there are 6 to 10 stakeholders that are involved, and large if there are 11 stakeholders and above that are involved. Next, under the column 10, no, I'm sorry, under the column 9, specify the type of affected stakeholders. So for the type of affected stakeholders, you may use Annex 1 for reference. So kapag po kompleto na nilagay natin na stakeholders under the column 1, then pwede na lang po natin siya copyhin. But again, we can add stakeholders if ever man po meron po tayong hindi na isama. Next, under the column 10, indicate the recommended policy option. For brevity, you may use R for repeal, A for amend, C for consolidate, and RE for retain. Next, for the column 11, state the reasons for the policy option to be adopted. So, hindi naman po kailangan na sobrang haba ng explanation po natin dito. What is important is for the person of common knowledge will be understood easily. All right. So lastly, column 12, it can be used for remarks. So, katulad po ng sinabi ko kanina, the regulatory map must contain all the information regarding our policy. Dahil kapag kulang-kulang po yung information na nilagay po natin sa Annex 4, may hirapan po tayo to determine the proper policy option. Hindi natin alam kung dapat ba siyang i-amend or dapat ba siyang i-retain without consideration of the various factors such as the coverage, the sector, the stakeholders, and others that are being requested in the regulatory map. All right. Next, and yung specific instructions. Next, column 3, regulatory reform technical report. So, kailan natin sasagutan yung regulatory reform technical report, 'di ba? So, yung Annex 4 po kasi, 'di ba, summary siya of all the existing ordinances or issuances of the LGU. Then kapag once the sanggunian has already adopted or kapag nakapag-amend na po sila ng nakapag-amend na po sila or nakapag-repeal na po sila, that is the time that you are going to answer the regulatory reform technical report. All right. So for the regulatory reform technical report, it will be used only for business related because this form will be submitted to anti-red tape authority. All right. So first, in the first box, indicate the name of the LGU, the department or office concerned or proponent, and the date of submission of this report. So for the department or office, the controlling factor po dito ay yung agency or office na mag-implement ng ordinance. So again, the information that are required in this box will come from the actual copy of the ordinance. Next, for the second box, indicate the new code, the number of the amended, consolidated, repealed, or a retained policy, its date of effectivity, and the complete title. So again, the information will come from the new policy. Kopihin na lang din po natin. For the third box, indicate all the legal bases, national or local, of the amended, consolidated, repealed, or retained ordinance or issuance. So, ito po yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na kapag na-request na po itong legal basis sa Annex 4. So, kapag magasagot po tayo ng Annex 3, hindi na po natin siya kailangan i-type manually. Sa system po, kapag in-upload po natin yung Annex 4, may drop down po doon na pagpipilian po natin yung mga previously entered na legal basis. So, i-click na lang po natin yung kung ano man yung mag-apply sa new policy. Especially if the LGU has consolidated various ordinances. So, if that is the case, then dadami rin yung legal basis. So, kapag ganun po, pwede na lang po natin siyang piliin doon sa drop-down option sa system. Alright? So next, for the fourth box, provide a brief description of the amended, consolidated, repealed, retained ordinance or resolution. Ayan po. So, brief description lang po yung hinihingi po natin dito. Next, for the fifth box, kindly put a check on the recommended policy option. Ni-repeal ba natin yung ordinance? In-amend ba natin siya? Kinonsolidate ba natin siya or ni-retain? So, checkan lang po natin yan. Next, for the sixth box, provide the code or number and the title of affected regulations. So for the list of other regulations it may affect, meron din po dyan na drop-down option. Kapag in-access po natin yung system natin, may drop-down option po doon. From the top, yung pinakaunang lalabas po doon sa system, yun po yung um, current natin na ina-amend. Kasi there are two ways po sa system kung paano tayo magsasagot ng regulatory reform technical report. First, through the Annex 4. Kapag kinlik po natin yung Annex 4, meron po doon option na submit report. Pag kinlik po natin doon, then mapoproceed po tayo dito sa form ng RRDR. But at the same time, the second option, we may click the RRTR option dun po sa side button ng ating system, then you will also proceed in this form. So once you click po the list of other regulations it may affect, may list po doon na pwede po natin pagpilian kung ano man yung mga regulations na naapektuhan ng repealed or amended policy po natin. So if that is the case po, hindi na po natin kailangan i-type manually yung code and title. I-click na lang din po natin yon. So that is for convenience of everyone. Next, for the seventh box, state the rationale behind the recommended policy option. So sometimes the LGU is already citing the rationale for amending or repealing that policy. So pwede na rin po natin siya kopyahin. But at the same time, pwede rin po natin kopyahin kung ano may nilagay natin sa Annex 4. Di ba naglagay po tayo doon ng reasons for policy option. So kukopyahin na lang din po natin yun. Next, for the 8th box, provide the stakeholders the nature, magnitude, and duration of impact to the stakeholders when the policy option is adopted. So as you can observe po sa ating system, if marami pong stakeholders na involved, for example, tricycle drivers, jeepney drivers, and truck drivers, then each stakeholder po, kailangan po natin siya gawan ng impact. So kailangan po i-determine kung ano yung nature of impact sa jeepney drivers, ano yung magnitude of impact to jeepney drivers, ano yung duration of impact to jeepney drivers, and so on and so forth for the other different stakeholders. For the stakeholders po, we have provided you for the nature, magnitude, and duration of impact, we have provided you options po. So you have to choose any of the following. For the nature, either local, provincial, regional, or national. For the magnitude, minor, medium, or large. And for duration, short term, medium term, or long term. Next, for the Annex 5, new issuances. So ano naman po yung new issuances? So this form contains all the new issuances. So ito na po yung listahan ng new issuances natin, ng mga ni-repeal na natin, ng mga consolidate. So after answering the regulatory reform technical report, the information will automatically be encoded in Annex 5. So Annex 5 is a system-generated report upon the submission and encoding of regulatory reform technical report for business-related and non-business-related ordinances, issuances, and resolutions. So as you can see, the information needed in columns 1 to 9 is the same with Annex 4, di ba? Only this time, the information pertains to new issuances that were repealed, amended, consolidated, and retained. So information indicated in this form shall reflect the details specified in Annex 3 in the regulatory reform technical report for business-related ordinances, resolutions, and issuances. And the encoded data in the system for non-business-related ordinances, resolutions, and issuances. So point of clarification po ito. So bakit po kanina ko pa binibigyan ng emphasis yung submitted or yung submission and encoding? Because although the regulatory reform technical report po ay applicable sa ordinances, resolutions, and issuances, applicable lang po siya or limited siya sa business related. Diba? So yung RRTR ay gagamitin lang siya for business related. So paano naman yung mga non-business related? then you have to manually encode po yung mga fields na required sa system po natin. Dahil the regulatory reform technical report po ay will be submitted to the anti-red tape authority. Yun lang po yung hinihingi nila for business related lang. So for non-business related, hindi po natin siya hinihingi. Hindi po natin hinihingi yung signed copies. Ang importante po ay masagutan po natin yung required information in the system. All right. So, but I think for the sake of convenience, and especially for LGUs with slow internet connection and LGUs with no internet connection at all, the LGU may still use the Annex 3, the Regulatory Reform Technical Report, for non-business related policies. Pero hindi na po natin siya kailangan papirmahan sa local chief executives. Okay, so dahil hindi naman na po natin siya isasubmit sa Anti-Red Tape Authority. For submission na lang din siya sa ating system. So, also, as you can observe po sa system po natin, bago po natin masubmit in the LGU level, in the municipality or city level, bago natin siya masubmit to higher level, to provincial or regional office, kailangan mag-submit po tayo, mag-attach tayo ng scanned copy. So if that is the case po, for non-business related policies, you have to convert the Annex Annex 3, the Regulatory Reform Technical Report, into a PDF file na hindi na po siya kailangan ng signed copy para makapag-proceed po tayo sa masabit po natin siya sa next level for consolidation. All right? So sana na-clarify ko po 'yon, sana malinaw po yung submissions po natin. But the regional IT naman po will explain that to you further. Next, for the in columns 10 to 12 po, yun lang po yung difference niya from the Annex 4. Alright, for the column 10, indicate the source of policy option of the new ordinance. And for columns 11 and 12, enumerate the code and number and the title of the affected ordinances, resolutions, and issuances. But sabi ko nga kanina, this form is a system-generated report. Once na sinagutan po natin yung RRTR, yung Annex 3, mag-automatic na po siya dito sa Annex 5. Alright? So the forms can be downloaded at the Regulatory Reforms Information System for LGUs or R4LGUs. So yung mga forms po na yon ay may mga formula na. Alright, so during the development po ng system, the BLGD and ISMS we have considered LGUs with slow internet connection. So yung mga forms po ay may mga formula na. So kapag in-upload po natin siya sa system, mag-automatic po siya doon sa mga fields na required doon sa system po natin. Para hindi na po tayo magmano-mano. And ma-upload na po natin siya kapag may internet connection na tayo. For the submission of hard copies, kindly ensure that all the annexes are duly signed by the appropriate authority upon submission of the hard copies to Anti-Red Tape Authority. So may guide naman po dun sa forms natin kung sino po yung proper signatories. Also, for the submission of accomplished forms, we have provided you a scheme. So first, the LGUs shall submit soft copies of accomplished forms to their respective DILG field offices. So bakit po natin hinihingi yung soft copies? Alam naman po natin na sobrang dami ng ginagawa yung mga MLGOs po natin. So para hindi na po mag-manually encode yung ating MLGOs, then hinihingi po natin soft copies para i-upload na lang po ng MLGOs yung mga reports na yun in our system. Okay? Next, the LGUs shall submit hard copies of accomplished forms directly to Anti-Red Tape Authority and copy furnish respective DILG field offices. Hard copies must be duly signed by the barangay or the local chief executive in case of administrative issuances or vice governor or vice mayor in case of ordinances and resolutions. So yan po yung protocol po natin. Next, the DLG regional and provincial offices shall consolidate all forms through the R4LGUs and submit consolidated outputs to DLG BLGD. And likewise, DLG BLGD shall consolidate or filter all outputs in the R4LGUs. So in the system po, makikita po namin doon kung anong LGUs na po yung nag-conduct ng regulatory reform Also, makita po namin doon kung ano yung mga policies na inamend na or ni-repealed ng LGUs. ARTA will also assess the outputs uploaded in the system. So for the deadline of submissions, we have provided you a timeline, but because of COVID, I think this will not be followed. Maglalabas po tayo ng new advisory as agreed upon during the training of trainers conducted by ISTMS. Maglalabas po tayo ng advisory regarding the new timeline of the inventory and the submission of LGUs. All right. So for the first phase of this timeline, formulation of regulatory reform team. So we prefer po na the regulatory reform team to be formed through the ordinances para hindi po basta-basta nababago yung hindi basta-basta nababago even after the term of the incumbent mayor. All right. So I think during the last week of January of this year, naglabas na po kami ng memorandum to regional offices asking to facilitate the formation and the inventory of the local policies. All right. So for the second phase of this timeline, inventory of policies of business-related and non-business-related policies from 2016 to present. For the second quarter, inventory of business-related and non-business-related policies from 2005 to 2015. For the third quarter, inventory of business-related and non-business-related from 1995 to 2004. And for the fourth quarter, inventory of business-related and non-business-related policies from 1994 and older. So, noong mga nakaraang pong training, may mga LGUs po na nagtatanong kung pwede po bang ibahin nila yung kung pwede po bang hindi nila sundin yung prescribed years. Okay lang naman po yun. Pwede po kayong mag-inventory per department or other ways na sa tingin nyo po ay magiging efficient po sa inyo para mas ma-determine natin kung ano yung mga policies na dapat i-amend na dapat na natin i-repeal. Alright? And lastly, for the phase 6 recommendation of policy option, this will be conducted regularly. So once na nakapag-amend na po tayo, once na nakapag-repeal na po yung sanggunian, then that is the time that you're going to answer the regulatory reform technical report with regulatory impact statement using Annex 3. So again, this will be conducted once there is already once the LGU has already adopted a specific policy option. All right. So that ends my discussion. So I hope ay naintindihan po natin. And thank you very much for listening.
Hello. Ayan. Thank you, Sir Renz. And now po, we will open for the floor for your questions. Any clarifications from our participants? Okay, you may use our chat box po or you may unmute din po. Okay, clear po ba sa inyo yung process?
Kim, may I add?
Yes, Ma'am Louie.
Oo. Reminder lang kasi, yung mga forms, kailangan fill up ng mga local government units yun. Pero pagdating kasi sa system, magkaiba na kasi. So, the Excel file ng regulatory map, yung Annex 4, madadownload siya sa system natin ng R4LGUs information system ng pipirapan ng local government unit yun. Then, pero ang makagagamit ng system as of now po Kasi yung system naman is for enhancement pa naman siya next year. Pero for the meantime, DILG muna po ang makakapag-use lang po ng system. So, because of our intranet. So, sa ngayon po, nilimit po nila muna na hindi makakapasok, hindi makakapag-encode sa LGU. But yung regulatory map, yung pinakamahaba at medyo masilimot pilapan, sa LGU po yun. Pero yung ibang forms po, automatic naman po sa intranet siya papasok. So, the DILG field officers will be the one to use the system po. Pero magagaling dapat yung mga documents sa LGUs. So bago nyo encode po yun, ang basehan natin, isasabit ng local government units. Yung, madali lang naman po ang system. So explain na lang po siguro mamaya na once na ipasok, na-download nyo, na-upload nyo na po sa system yung regulatory map, yung Annex 4, automatic naman kung RRTR yon, lahat ng may business related lang na nakalagay sa sa regulatory map, yun lang ang papasok sa RRTR. So yun po. So hindi pasensya na po sa mga DILG field officers namin kasi as of the meantime po, yun lang muna po. So next year po, enhance naman po yun ng ISTMS ng central po.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Louie. So, kasi po ngayon po parang nasa process pa lang din po tayo ng stock taking po ang ating mga LGUs. So, ayun po, dun sa mga hindi pa po nakakapag-start ng stock taking, so medyo mahaba-haba po at marami-rami po ang ating kailangan i-review po ngayon, volumes and volumes of policies.
So, tapos Kim, wala pa kaming guidelines for the adjustment of yung submission. Pero for the meantime, since kasi medyo late na tayo, third quarter na because of the pandemic, saka alam natin na sobrang busy din sa LGU po, pwede naman po tayo mag-adjust. So, start na lang muna tayo sa most current na nabago natin, lalo ngayon, di ba nag-submit po tayo ng mga citizen charter. So ano yung mga nabagong policy doon po regarding sa submission ng citizen charter at ano po pa yung ibang basis for adjusting the new normal. So yun po muna, current one. Supposed to be 2016 to the present eh. So mag-by year na lang tayo. Alam namin masyadong maano pa po yung LGU po. So we understood naman po. Basta importante, makapag-fill up, mag-stock taken muna po tayo ngayon.
Okay, thank you very much po, Ma'am Louie. So mukhang wala nagtatanong kahit sa ating chat box. Yes, yes po, ang ating SB from Palawan, sir. Board member po. You can unmute po, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, ma'am. Tanong ko lang po yung regarding sa creation ng designation ng yung sa regulatory reform team na ito. Meron po bang yung deadline na sinasabi na bawat LGU na may establish na po ito? Kasi kung halimbawa man, siguro mas mainam na kung halimbawa dito po sa amin that magkakaroon muna ng ipapanakwala muna yung regarding sa creation muna ng ad hoc team composed of the secretariat kasi trabaho talaga mostly ng secretariat to, ng sangguniang secretariat. Like for instance, yung sa stakeholder analysis, yung four-way test na yan, halos ng mga records ay yung secretariat po ang may hawak. Kaya mas mainam na sila ay makapagbuo ng isang parang pinaka-ad hoc team composed of the secretariat, legal, then the ICT for them to conduct this, yung sa mga sinasabi sa mga annexes na ito. Then pag nabuo na yon, then maybe that will be time for the creation and designation na ng RRT na isasama na doon yung consultation and the representation para sa ating mga stakeholders. Kasi kung talaga malaking trabaho po talaga ng secretariat dito. So far wala pong wala pong time frame tungkol po sa creation and designation na ito, yung inaasam po from the LGU. Hello?
Yes po.
So far, wala pa hong specific time frame na inano po regarding na nire-request sa bawat LGU. O kinakailangan by this time you have already created and designated a regulatory reform team. Kasi kung prior to that, first kasi mas mainam na ma-establish mo muna ito, lalo na ang secretariat. Parang trabaho ng codification of ordinances ito eh.
Ma'am Louie, you can unmute Ma'am Louie.
Oo, sir. Actually, sir, nag-memo kami sa regions na dapat inuna po talaga ng LGU na mag-create po ng regulatory reform team. Ni-require na po talaga tayo kasi 2019-01 pa po ito na-issue itong JMC and the first instance is to create the team. So, January po dapat, nag-start na nga po tayo dapat ng creation. So, mas maganda po talaga may ordinance. Kaya lang, kung sa ngayon po, wala pa po yung regulatory reform team, just follow na lang po the CART, yung Committee on Anti-Red Tape. Kasi although the regulatory reform is the CART na rin po. Balik kayo na po in charge the whole EODB sa ating pong ano. Kaya lang po kasi dun sa CART po kasi wala yung isa lang po at member ng sanggunian, hindi katulad dati sa ating regulatory reform team, 3, but dapat designated ng sanggunian po ang magiging member ng CART. So, yun na lang yung regulatory reform team, mas mag-expand lang po yung function nyo kasi the whole EODB na po, including the engineering, lahat po ng regarding sa EODB sa LGU, the RRT or the CART RRT, kayo na po yung magiging in charge po doon. So, yun. So, the composition of regulatory reform team, you may expand the members para ma-follow nyo yung pong CART. So, magiging CART na rin po. So, dual function. For regulatory reform, kasi almost po yung function ng Committee on Anti-Red Tape, yun na rin po kasi ang function, nandun din na rin yung function ng regulatory reform eh.
Siguro po ma'am, yung siguro si local chief executive gawa na lang ng executive order creating for this yung 3 teams lang ito. Kasi kung buong whole team dahil talagang yun ang pinaka preliminary function ng na ito, parang ad hoc team para ipo-focus nila doon sa static ng
Opo,
yung,
sir.
kasi
Pero,
sila hawak ng mga records.
Kaya lang yun, yun lang po sinasabi ko lang sir kasi meron tayong bagong MC sa ARTA na i-monitor din tayo ng ARTA. So kung kung wala pa naman kayong RRT sa as of now, sundan na rin po nating CART para yun din po kasi halos ang function. So yung nandun po sa CART, nandun sa RRT team, dadagdagan nyo lang para maging anti-red tape plus the function itself. So mas maganda po na may ordinance po talaga din bukod sa executive order kasi para mas ano man tawag doon, mas legal ang pag-create po. Yun lang po, sir.
Ma'am, pwede ba kami makahingi ng ganito lahat na diniscuss natin ngayon, ng copy?
Region na lang po.
Yes po, sir. Sige po.
Sige po, thank you very much. Yun lang rin po.
Yeah, thank you po very much. Any other questions before we take our lunch po? Okay, going once, going twice. Gutom na po kayo? Or are you overwhelmed na agad? Okay, wala. From YouTube, wala po tayong questions. Okay, wala din. And Okay, so we're clear. Wala pong questions na. Walang follow-up questions. Okay, so with this po, siguro po i-cut muna po natin ang ating morning session. Actually, we have one more topic po to discuss, yung ating regulatory reform for LGUs na information system, yung sinasabi ni Ma'am Louie kanina. Ano po ba ang gusto ng, what is the pleasure of the body po? Do you want to extend or do you want to take your lunch na po? Those who would like to take their lunch, pwede po kayong mag-react ng, thumbs up po. Kung gusto niya na po mag-lunch break. Okay, ano po ang madami? Yung iba, okay, maraming gusto ng mag-lunch. Sige po, so we will cut our morning session po, but please, please be back po at exactly 1 o'clock so we can start po on time since we are behind one topic po. We will also be, Arta will also be with us po at 1 o'clock. So, ayun po, thank you very much po. Please stay with us po until mamaya. For those who are watching po on YouTube, ika-cut po muna.
May volume.
Hello. Ayan. For those who are watching po sa ating YouTube live, makakat po muna ating live streaming and then there will be another link po for the afternoon session. Thank you. Sa baba, may mga speaker doon.